Chapter 1446. 1. Lin Yuan's First Tribulation Chaos Void. Amid the restless speculations of time beings like Lord Mo Shu, a figure materialized in the distance. It was Lin Yuan. After refining the entire chaos void, Lin Yuan slightly sensed the changes in the whole dimension space. He then sent an avatar to meet with Lord Mo Shu and other time beings. After all, at this moment, the time beings like Lord Mo Shu must be filled with questions. Why did Lin Yuan become a Time Lord so quickly? Milky Way, Milky Way. Lord Mo Shu, Zhu Yin, and other time beings immediately looked at Lin Yuan. I know what you are thinking and worrying about. Lin Yuan looked at the time beings, shook his head, and said, Many things cannot be explained in a short time. You only need to know that I was born from the chaos void. In the eyes of time beings like Lord Mo Shu, Lin Yuan's speed of growth seemed too fantastical. Was he a vessel nurtured by some terrifying being, and so on? Understood. The time beings like Lord Mo Shu felt assured. They wholeheartedly believed Lin Yuan's words. After all, with Lin Yuan's current means of refining the entire chaos void, there was no need to lie to them. Even the strongest, like Lord Mo Shu, was merely a first-realm time being and had no ability to resist a third-realm lord. Their concerns were put to rest. Lord Mo Shu curiously asked, Milky Way, what does it feel like to be a third-realm lord? The time beings who have lived through dozens, hundreds of cycles of great destruction might have encountered Time Lords, but time beings like Lord Mo Shu, who have not yet experienced a full cycle of great destruction, have only heard about Time Lords. They only know that Time Lords should never be provoked. The essence of life has become much stronger, Lin Yuan explained, and one's own timeline has completed convergence, leaving no weak period from this time on. No weak period? Lord Mo Shu, Zhu Yin, and other time beings appeared envious. Time beings below the third realm always have flaws in their past, and the simplest way for lords to completely kill time beings is to go to the past and kill them, Lin Yuan said. Having refined the entire chaos void, this dimension space was under Lin Yuan's control, whether it was past or future. ET's SS is SSE dotted novel fire, not net. You needn't worry, the past of the entire chaos void is under my gaze. No lord can take action in the past time of chaos void, Lin Yuan said. Having refined the entire chaos void, this dimension space was under Lin Yuan's control, whether it was past or future. Which means, since the time beings like Lord Mo Shu were born from the chaos void, their past in the chaos void is equivalent to being under Lin Yuan's protection. Lin Yuan even had a feeling, as his strength increased, he could completely extract the chaos void from the timeline, making it so that time beings of the past and future could not observe the chaos void from the timeline. Thank you, Milky Way. The time beings like Lord Mo Shu exchanged a glance and felt joy in their hearts. Doesn't this mean that when they venture outside in the future, they need not worry about threats from other lords? I heard there's a lord stationed in this dimensional gap region, and this lord is named Lord Chu Wei. Zhu Yin couldn't help saying, even though you've just entered the third realm, your strength shouldn't be any weaker than Lord Chu Wei, right? The time beings like Lord Mo Shu and Zhu Yin have only heard of the fame of Lord Chu Wei, but have never met directly. However, with Lin Yuan's past performance, when he first entered the first realm, he was already enough to battle with the second realm's gray ancestor. And now that he has entered the third realm, he should not be much weaker than the long-established Lord Chu Wei. Lord Chu Wei, huh? Lin Yuan's gaze was profound, looking in one direction, and the moment he mentioned the 4 characters of Lord Chu Wei, Lin Yuan established a shallow causal relationship with this lord, and along this causal line, all major true forms, numerous avatars, and various life-saving measures of Lord Chu Wei were under Lin Yuan's watch. With just a thought from Lin Yuan, all traces of this senior Time Lord in the current timeline would be forcibly erased. Although using methods from the past, Lord Chu Wei wouldn't completely die, but it would take endless years to recover. I should be a bit stronger than Lord Chu Wei, Lin Yuan said with a smile. A bit stronger? The time beings like Lord Mo Shu were shaken in their hearts. They knew Lin Yuan very well. He never said anything he wasn't confident about, since he said he was a bit stronger. Then that renowned Lord Chu Wei was really not as good as Lin Yuan. While chatting with time beings like Lord Mo Shu, Lin Yuan's true self began to elevate his consciousness, attempting to contact the will of the Supreme Rule Dao. Endless tribulations. Lin Yuan was quite curious about this path of transcendence, as it was the only one where the end could be seen. Therefore, after stepping into the third realm and becoming a Time Lord, the first thing Lin Yuan did was to see what his first tribulation on this path of transcendence would be. Buzz, the will of the Supreme Rule Dao, descended, and the contents of Lin Yuan's first tribulation test flooded into his mind. Travel to the dimension space at these coordinates, and with a special purification method, re-purify this dimension space? Lin Yuan checked the content of his first tribulation test. As for the special purification method, it also appeared in his mind along with the test of the first tribulation. An ordinary lord could master it with just a few years of study. Jin Yue dimension, information about the specific intelligence of the target dimension space surfaced in Lin Yuan's mind. The Jin Yu dimension, similar to the Milky Way dimension, belongs to the few dimension spaces that do not repel foreign life forms. No time limit. Chapter 1447, 1, Lin Yuan's First Tribulation. Chapter 1447, 1, Lin Yuan's First Tribulation, Part 2. It's not difficult, Lin Yuan thought to himself. Even though the Jin Yue dimension, like the Chaos Void, repels foreign temporal beings. With the means of a Time Lord, one can integrate into it by paying the price. Moreover, the Jin Yue dimension is not exclusive, and there is no time limit for this ordeal. Lin Yuan observed the abyss of calamities in the deepest regions of Wanwei space, time, aware that many calamities have strict time constraints. If the trial is not completed within the stipulated time, it is considered a failure. They all say the first stage of the ordeal is not difficult for a lord, and now it seems true. Lin Yuan nodded slightly. At least the first ordeal he faced looked very simple. But even if it's simple, it must be taken seriously. Lin Yuan showed no intention of underestimating, as every ordeal within endless calamities, whether easy or difficult. If failed, he would be annihilated by the will of the Supreme Rule Dao. Lin Yuan did not want to stumble at a critical moment. The will of the Supreme Rule Dao is equivalent to half a 14th rank existence. If it personally annihilates, even if one can consume world-breaking origin force to resist, the expenditure of the world-breaking origin force would be like mountains and seas, and the force Lin Yuan has accumulated may not be enough. Well, it's right to go personally. Lin Yuan's true self got up and took a step, disappearing into the chaos void. Decades later, Lin Yuan finally traveled to the outskirts of the Jin Yue dimension. In the vast dimensional gap, even a legendary lord has not explored to the end. Is that the Jin Yue dimension? Lin Yuan observed from afar a massive dimension space. Occupied by a Time Lord? Lin Yuan clearly sensed a formidable presence within the Jin Yue dimension, stemming from a Time Lord, past space-time, Green Cliff Mountain, Time Space Shop. The 12-eyed beast looked at Lin Yuan and smiled, saying, "The Jin Yu dimension is the territory of the Dragonstone Lord." Dragonstone Lord? Lin Yuan appeared thoughtful. Upon discovering the Jin Yue dimension was occupied by a lord, Lin Yuan did not act rashly. If he can purify the Jin Yue dimension in a peaceful way, Lin Yuan will definitely choose the peaceful approach. Using force to deal with the Dragonstone Lord? Lin Yuan was unsure of the Lord's control over the Jin Yue dimension. What if the Lord could destroy the entire dimension in an instant? Then, even if Lin Yuan dealt with the Dragonstone Lord, there would be no Jin Yue dimension for him to purify, leading to the failure of the trial. Of course, the likelihood of this is extremely low, unless one has refined a dimension space thoroughly as Lin Yuan. Otherwise, even occupying a dimension space, a Lord cannot cause it to collapse in a flash. Furthermore, even if the Dragonstone Lord had other means to instantly obliterate the Jin Yue dimension, Lin Yuan could spend world-breaking origin force to prevent it. But world-breaking origin force is so precious, it's best not to use it unless necessary. Why am I asking this? The time-space shop owner curiously asked. For 60,000 years, Lin Yuan frequently visited the time-space shop to purchase resources, becoming acquainted with the 12-eyed beast. However, the 12-eyed beast did not know Lin Yuan was the galactic of Wanwei time, space. Asking for identity in a gathering place for lords like Green Cliff Mountain is impolite. In the eyes of the 12-eyed beast, Lin Yuan remained a lord with great potential in the future. I need to borrow the Jin Yue dimension, Lin Yuan said. He did not reveal the Jin Yue dimension's connection to his endless ordeals. Borrow the Jin Yue dimension? The time-space shop owner frowned. The Dragonstone Lord is in a special state and is not easy to deal with. Special state? Difficult to get along with? Lin Yuan looked at the 12-eyed beast. The path chosen by the Dragonstone Lord for transcendence is infinite origin. The owner of the time-space shop, the 12-eyed beast, explained, "You know, the infinite origin path to transcendence is extremely dangerous when exploring ancient time periods, especially when encountering the imprint remnants left by some terrifying beings." Tsk. Lin Yuan listened quietly. The past time space holds countless secrets. The more ancient it is, the greater the risk, and the calamity of being lost is just one of them. Even more unpredictable are the marks left by ancient beings, who have generally seen or even approached the end of a transcendence path, but fell at the last moment, erased by the will of the Supreme Rule Dao. When the will of the Supreme Rule Dao descends to a race, no matter how powerful a legendary lord is, they must die, with no chance of resurrection. But the grievances and remnants left by a few terrifying beings are difficult to dissipate and remain in the past time-space. The most dangerous thing for lords on the infinite origin path of transcendence is encountering these grievances and remnants, which can lightly influence and control one, or heavily cause the collapse of the mind and will. Affected by some remnant, the Dragonstone Lord is in a mad state, with few moments of clarity, making communication difficult, said the owner of the time-space shop. I see. Lin Yuan suddenly understood. The legendary Lord of Purple Light's self-deprecation that lords are pitiful is not without reason. Someone like the Dragonstone Lord who can still maintain basic clarity is lucky. You want to borrow the Golden Moon dimension, I can help negotiate with the Dragonstone Lord, but it will likely require some sands of time, the owner of the time-space shop said. Involving a dimensional space is certainly not done for free. The sands of time is not a problem. Lin Yuan immediately replied, for anything under 5 million caddies of sands of time, I agree. After the one-way time-space trip, Lin Yuan made a fortune, holding billions of caddies of sands of time. That should work. The owner of the time-space shop nodded. 5 million caddies of sands of time is more than enough for a single use of the Golden Moon dimension. Not to mention, he would be handling it personally, outside the Golden Moon dimension. At the place where Lin Yuan was, suddenly an intention descended, forming the shadow of the 12-eyed beast, which was the avatar of the owner of the time-space shop. I've already spoken with the Dragonstone Lord. He will come out to speak with you personally later, said the 12-eyed beast. Lin Yuan nodded. Soon. In the distance, the Golden Moon dimension suddenly stirred up waves. A colossal black dragon phantom emerged. Dragonstone. The 12-eyed beast immediately stepped forward, appearing in front of the black dragon's shadow. Lin Yuan also stepped up to follow. I've told you everything. This is the buyer. The 12-eyed beast introduced Lin Yuan. He just wants to borrow your Golden Moon dimension for 1,000,000 years. 50,000 caddies of sands of time is more than enough. Lin Yuan offered the price of 5 million caddies of sands of time, so the 12-eyed beast naturally wouldn't take it out directly. What do you want to use the Golden Moon dimension for? The Dragonstone Lord looked down on Lin Yuan with a vaguely mad and chaotic aura. I'm quite interested in the operation of the origin Dao within the Golden Moon dimension and want to borrow it to comprehend for a while. Lin Yuan found an excuse casually. I see, the Dragonstone Lord grinned. 50,000 caddies of sands of time is too little. Then, how much do you need? Lin Yuan asked. AGU Nordis DC Artemisher CCCCC Novo Fire AGU Net 50 million caddies of sands of time, not a caddy less. The Dragonstone Lord stared at Lin Yuan. 50 million caddies of sands of time. The 12-eyed beast beside him nosed slightly. Dragonstone, are you mad? 50 million caddies of sands of time? Your Golden Moon dimension isn't worth that much. Dragonstone, give me some face. 2 million caddies of sands of time. The 12-eyed beast said in a deep voice. Give you face? The Dragonstone Lord seemed slightly impatient. Time space, who do you think you are? You're not even a legendary lord, and you want me to give you face? The Dragonstone Lord's tone started becoming frenzied. I am a returning ruins lord who has passed the final phase of the 3rd billionth calamity, about to reach transcendence, and you think you can bring up face with me? Returning ruins lord? The 12-eyed beast was quite helpless. Dragonstone, the returning ruins lord. Perished long ago in the distant past time-space, your mind and will have been influenced by the remnants left by the returning ruins lord in the past time-space. Wake up. I am the returning ruins lord, and the returning ruins lord is me. The Dragonstone Lord laughed recklessly, staring intently at Lin Yuan. You have only 2 choices, either hand over 50 million caddies of sands of time, or get as far away as possible. Chapter 1448, 2, Don't Go. Absolutely don't go. Chapter 1448, 2, Don't Go. Absolutely don't go. The mighty legendary lord, how could he fall into such madness? Lin Yuan had long known from the owner of the time-space shop that the Dragonstone Lord was in a peculiar condition, influenced by ancient times, but it was still somewhat unexpected. The Dragonstone Lord was not only mad, but had completely considered himself the returning ruins lord. He couldn't even maintain his own self. It can be imagined if the returning ruins lord hadn't completely fallen. It's estimated that with a single thought he could allow the Dragonstone Lord to become a vessel for descent. Returning Ruins Lord? Some information about this legendary lord appeared in Lin Yuan's mind. Not much information related to the returning Ruins Lord has been passed down, only that this legendary lord was unimaginably powerful, having reached the final stage of the Transcendence Path, already past the 3rd billion tribulation. It's important to know, the last stage of tribulations amounts to 3,300 tribulations, the 3rd billion, and the Dragonstone Lord even mentioned the 3rd billion and 1,000th tribulation. Indeed, it was near the end of the Transcendence Path. The Lord Wanwei, who opened up the Wanwei time-space, had only passed the 200 millionth tribulation in the final stage. Such a powerful legendary lord, did he also die in the end? Died in the subsequent tribulations? Lin Yuan thought quietly. Although he didn't know the specific strength of the returning Ruins Lord, just the remnants of his thoughts, separated by endless ages and different time spaces, made the Dragonstone Lord lose himself and fall into madness, showing how terrifying it was. As the Dragonstone Lord returned to the Gold Moon dimension, the owner of the time-space shop looked at Lin Yuan rather helplessly. It seems we'll have to wait a while, until the Dragonstone Lord regains a little clarity before trading. The Dragonstone Lord, under the influence of the returning Ruins Lord remnants, occasionally becomes clear-headed. When he's clear-headed, the Dragonstone Lord is basically a normal lord, unlike his current incomprehensible state. I had long warned Dragonstone to be cautious when exploring ancient times. The owner of the time-space shop shook his head. He had known the Dragonstone Lord for a long time, and they had many transactions in the long bygone years. In fact, the owner of the time-space shop had a wide network, at least being quite famous within the circle of second-tier lords. Without delving too far, just the past, present, and future of the Chaos Void alone were under Lin Yuan's gaze. If other lords dared to explore the past of the Chaos Void, Lin Yuan could suppress them with the power of the entire Chaos Void with just a thought. Otherwise, he wouldn't have dared to tell Lin Yuan earlier that invoking his name could be a lifesaver when encountering danger in the one-way timespace. The ancient times were indeed dangerous. Lin Yuan nodded. Without delving too far, just the past, present, and future of the Chaos Void alone were under Lin Yuan's gaze. If other lords dared to explore the past of the Chaos Void, Lin Yuan could suppress them with the power of the entire Chaos Void with just a thought. When will the Dragonstone Lord probably regain clarity? Lin Yuan asked. The first tribulation of the endless tribulations has no time limit, but Lin Yuan still wanted to know how long it might take. At least 100 billion years. At most, a few cycles of great collapse should suffice. The owner of the time-space shop estimated slightly. For a lord, a few cycles of great collapse are not considered long. 100 billion years? A few cycles of great collapse? Lin Yuan furrowed his brows. Talking about a few cycles of great collapse, even just 100 billion years, Lin Yuan couldn't accept. What's wrong? Is it urgent? The owner of the time-space shop noticed the change in Lin Yuan's expression. That's quite long. Lin Yuan nodded, thought for a while, then said, if I can awaken the Dragonstone Lord earlier, can we then trade normally? With those words, the owner of the time-space shop almost thought he heard wrong. To awaken the Dragonstone Lord earlier? If that's truly the premise, a normal trade was indeed possible. But what method could free the Dragonstone Lord from the returning Ruins Lord influence and awaken him earlier? The owner of the time-space shop looked at Lin Yuan. If not for the tens of thousands of years they've known each other, seeing that Lin Yuan wouldn't speak without confidence, he almost thought Lin Yuan was talking nonsense. How do you plan to awaken the Dragonstone earlier? The owner of the time-space shop steadied himself, still intending to listen to Lin Yuan's method. If you need my help, or perhaps from other lords, just say so, the owner of the time-space shop added. No need to trouble yourself that much. Lin Yuan shook his head, gaze fixed on the distant Gold Moon dimension. Through the Dragonstone Lord's state just now, and the connection with the Gold Moon dimension, there would be no need to meet the Dragonstone Lord face-to-face just to ascertain. No need to trouble yourself that much? Lin Yuan had already concluded that the Dragonstone Lord's control over the Gold Moon dimension was far from reaching a complete refining standard. Even less possible was the idea to obliterate this dimension space with a single thought. In fact, if not for the returning Ruins Lord remnants pollution on the Dragonstone Lord, Lin Yuan viewing forward on the timeline would be excessively obscure and twisted. There would be no need to meet the Dragonstone Lord face-to-face just to ascertain. No need to trouble yourself that much? The owner of the time-space shop showed a puzzled look. However, in the next moment, the owner of the time-space shop's eyes widened in shock. Lin Yuan had his gaze fixed on the Gold Moon dimension, suddenly extended his hand. Whoosh! For original chapters go to novi-fi.fr.ir.net. His hand, like the heavens collapsing, covering the cosmos, directly reached into the Gold Moon dimension. As a top-level dimension space, the Gold Moon dimension, though not repelling external temporal beings, naturally was heavily shrouded in restrictions being the Dragonstone Lord's domain. However, under this hand, the forces outside the Gold Moon dimension rapidly crumbled. This hand caused no damage to the Gold Moon dimension but directly penetrated its depths, then gently gripped. Buzz, slight struggling ripples came but instantly subsided. Immediately after, Lin Yuan's extended right hand retracted, withdrawing from the Gold Moon dimension's depths. Compared to the time when it ventured in, now Lin Yuan's hand was no longer empty, but instead held a fine shadow. Chapter 1449, 2 Don't Go, Absolutely, Don't Go. Chapter 1449, 2 Don't Go, Absolutely, Don't Go. If you magnified this slender shadow a billion times, you would discover a black dragon towering to the heavens and reaching across the earth, a black dragon comparable to the pinnacle dimensional space of Golden Moon Dimensional, space of Golden Moon Dimension. Yet at this moment, in Lin Yuan's palm, this black dragon seemed like an eel. Dragonstone Lord? The time-space shop owner gazed blankly at the eel in Lin Yuan's hand. From Lin Yuan reaching out his right hand to retracting it, only an instant had passed. As a legendary lord with infinite origin as the core, the Dragonstone Lord's strength was nearly at the limit of a second-level lord. Without such strength, it would be impossible to explore the ancient past space-time. Approaching the second-level limit of lordship strength, and coupled with contamination from the remnants of the returning Ruins Lord, he seemed mad. It can be said that even a real second-level limit lord would not want to provoke the Dragonstone Lord. Who knows what other means the remnants left by the returning Ruins Lord might have, relating to an existence at the threshold of a transcendent path like returning Ruins Lord, which second-level lord dares to be careless? But now? As powerful as Dragonstone Lord, he was actually pulled out by Lin Yuan so effortlessly in his own lair? Legendary, at least the strength of a legendary lord? The time-space shop owner looked at Lin Yuan, his mind racing with thoughts. In the blink of an eye, countless pieces of information flashed through his mind, exploring within the one-way space-time. Possessing means of a legendary lord, yet not any legendary lord he had ever heard of? Thoughts gathered and merged in the time-space shop owner's mind, forming a name, Galaxy. The mysterious lord who appeared briefly in the one-way space-time, finally taken away by several legendary lords in the deepest region? Lin Yuan gazed at the Dragonstone Lord in his palm, trying to make him regain consciousness. The simplest method was, of course, to directly suppress him. Then Lin Yuan could help him temporarily recover his sanity. Even just a remnant will left by a terrifying existence like the returning Ruins Lord. No second-level lord would dare to approach, but Lin Yuan is different. His strength and means had already reached the level of a legendary lord at the final stage of billions of tribulations. With the Myriad Realms gate suppressed in the deepest part of his mind, even if the returning Ruins Lord resurrected, he couldn't affect Lin Yuan's mental will, let alone just a remnant will. The Dragonstone Lord will probably wake up in a moment. Lin Yuan glanced at the time-space shop owner standing beside him and spoke. Okay. The time-space shop owner jolted awake, then cautiously asked, Are you Lord Galaxy? Although he speculated that Lin Yuan was the mysterious Lord Galaxy in the one-way spacetime. Speculation was ultimately speculation. The rightful source is novelfire.net. Yes, Lin Yuan nodded. Indeed, the mysterious Galaxy, the time-space shop owner's heart trembled. As a lord with extensive connections, there was no way to keep from him the happenings in the one-way spacetime. And the biggest event this time in the opening of one-way spacetime was the mysterious Galaxy Lord. Not only did he show his future self stepping into the realm of legend, he was also personally greeted by the legendary lords in the deepest region of one-way spacetime. Combining various pieces of information, the lords have already speculated that the future of the Galaxy Lord is likely to be someone unimaginable. Otherwise, how could he have been met proactively by the few deepest legendary lords while still not yet a legendary lord? I didn't expect, the Galaxy Lord whom other lords are extremely curious and in awe of, I had already known? The time-space shop owner thought with immense emotion. During this period, many lords had naturally sought him out for information on the Galaxy Lord, but the time-space shop owner himself was extremely curious and had no clue. Lord Yi Wu, the time-space shop owner, suddenly thought of the Lord of Yi Wu, involuntarily feeling sympathetic. If Lord Yi Wu had accepted Lin Yuan back then, wouldn't he have established a connection with the mysterious Galaxy Lord? That is a great opportunity that many second-level extreme lords desire but cannot obtain. In the end, not only did Lord Yi Wu fail to grasp this opportunity, he also left a bad impression on Lin Yuan. Soon, dozens of breaths later, the struggling Dragonstone Lord in Lin Yuan's palm gradually calmed down. I am the Dragonstone. The Dragonstone Lord's eyes regained clarity and then fell into even greater shock. Where is this? Looking up, 5 gigantic pillars that seemed endless connected the heavens and the earth. A vast, oppressive force filled the surroundings, and the Dragonstone Lord felt he couldn't move at all. The next moment, the world changed. The Dragonstone Lord appeared in the outside world. He saw a young man and a 12-eyed beast. Who are you? The Dragonstone Lord recognized the 12-eyed beast, but the young man was utterly unfamiliar. Yet all the pressure around stemmed from the young man. Dragonstone, this is Lord Galaxy. You are conscious thanks to Lord Galaxy's intervention. The time-space shopkeeper immediately reminded him. Lord Galaxy? The Dragonstone Forest Master had never heard of this title, but the oppressive force that filled the heavens and earth was indisputable, and he immediately bowed towards Lin Yuan. Dragonstone greets Lord Galaxy. Lin Yuan nodded and looked at the Dragonstone Lord, saying, I am here to make a transaction with you, to borrow the Golden Moon Dimension for a period. If there's anything you want, feel free to say it, Lin Yuan said with a smile. Borrow the Golden Moon Dimension? The Dragonstone Lord glanced at the Golden Moon Dimension behind him, then at the time-space shopkeeper, and immediately said, Dragonstone is willing to offer the Golden Moon Dimension to Lord Galaxy, and all my possessions, totaling 7,200,000,000 pounds of time sand. The Dragonstone Lord said respectfully, Offer the Golden Moon Dimension to me? Lin Yuan looked at the Dragonstone Lord with interest. Offering the Golden Moon Dimension would be akin to completely giving this top-notch dimensional space to Lin Yuan. This was far more costly than just borrowing it for a time. Moreover, the Dragonstone Lord was also handing over all his possessions, over 7 billion pounds of time sand. What do you want? Lin Yuan asked. I only asked for Lord Galaxy to resolve the returning Ruins Lord residue for me, the Dragonstone Lord said in a low voice. Resolve the returning Ruins Lord residue? Lin Yuan thought for a moment and said, I can't guarantee it, but even if I can't completely resolve it, I can suppress part of it, extending the time you remain conscious. Based on the previous interaction with the returning Ruins Lord residue, Lin Yuan was confident he could handle it, as it was just a residue and separated by unknown time and space. No matter the outcome, I accept it. The Dragonstone Lord immediately turned to the time-space shopkeeper. Time-space, transfer all the time sand I left in your store to Lord Galaxy. No problem. The time-space shopkeeper nodded. The time-space shop not only handled purchases and sales, but also served as a bank, where many time lives deposited their time sand. Because the time-space shopkeeper had such a reputable name, Time Lives trusted him greatly. Then I will begin. Lin Yuan said no more, his gaze falling on the Dragonstone Lord. Buzz. The Dragonstone Lord immediately felt his mental will fall. He didn't resist, instead letting himself drift off into sleep. Lord of Returning Ruins, Lin Yuan simultaneously activated the forces of Tai Yi, Tai Chu, and Tai Shi, three of the innate five great, beginning to expel the residue pollution deep in the Dragonstone Lord's body, soul, and mind. Truly befitting a lord near the end of the path to transcendence. Lin Yuan marveled in his heart. Though he wasn't giving his all, he wasn't far off, but in expelling the Returning Ruins Lord residue, he still hadn't reached an overwhelming suppression. However, it was only a matter of time before expelling the Returning Ruins Lord residue, several days later. Amid the clash of forces from Tai Yi, Tai Chu, and Tai Shi of the innate five great, the residue pollution deep within the Dragonstone Lord's body, soul, and mind was instantly driven to a certain place. These residue pollutions converged, suddenly forming a blurry figure. Originally filled with madness and frenzy, the residue pollution rapidly calmed upon merging into this blurry figure. I am Returning Ruins, not knowing if you come from the past or the future. The blurry figure spoke, but if you are on the path of infinite tribulation, after surviving the 3rd billionth tribulation, among the final 3,000 tribulations bestowed by the Supreme Rule Dao, one tribulation sends you to a certain time and space to prevent ascending the new path of transcendence. At this moment, the tone of the blurry figure suddenly filled with unwillingness and regret. Don't go. Absolutely don't go. Chapter 1453, 100,000 years. Chapter 453, 100,000 years. The blurred figure is the remnant left by the Returning Ruins Lord in the past. Madness is only its surface. Essentially, it is to leave a piece of information, or rather, a message. Don't go. Absolutely don't go. Even though they were separated by different times and spaces and not facing the Returning Ruins Lord himself, Lin Yuan still felt the other's intense resentment and grievance. The key part has been erased again. Lin Yuan shook his head slightly. He completely understood the warning left by the Returning Ruins Lord's remnant. The last 3,000 tribulations in the 3rd stage of the Endless Calamities, consisting of 330 million tribulations, were very likely meant to prevent someone from ascending a path of transcendence. But who is this existence, and which time-space and during which time period? It remains unknown. Without these two premises, the significance of this information is actually not very great, because there's simply no way to prevent it. One can't just abandon the Endless Calamities path of transcendence because of this warning, right? Besides, apart from the Endless Calamities path of transcendence, the other two paths of transcendence are also not easy to traverse, filled with hidden dangers everywhere. It seems to be the handiwork of the Supreme Rule Dao again. Lin Yuan thought to himself, convinced that the Returning Ruins Lord's remnant would not deliberately erase crucial information. Even under extreme obsession, the Returning Ruins Lord's remnant would only reveal crucial information, at the very least, those core words. But now, there is none. And this forceful erasure method, Lin Yuan had already seen more than once. The last time was in the Abyss of Calamities left by Lord Wanwei. This update is available on novelchari.net, deepest part of Wanwei timespace. In front of the Abyss of Calamity, Lin Yuan sat cross-legged, observing the various calamities recorded within the Abyss of Calamity. Some were experienced by Lord Wanwei, and others by different lords. On the Endless Calamities path of transcendence, the Returning Ruins Lord far surpassed Lord Wanwei. The former had already passed through the last stage of 330 million tribulations, needing only 2,000 more to complete this path of transcendence, while Lord Wanwei had only passed through the 200 millionth tribulation of the last stage. The last tribulation of the Abyss of Calamity was the final tribulation passed by Lord Wanwei himself. Images flickered, finally settling on the tall figure of Lord Wanwei. Lord Wanwei's skin appeared silvery white, like layered time-space. He clasped his hands behind his back, muttering, "My 200 millionth tribulation was to travel to a distant future time-space to kill a being. I paid a terrible price, but I finally succeeded. Just that when I returned to the present time-space from that future time-space, I mistakenly entered a chaotic time-space. In that space, the next words of Lord Wanwei were erased." At the end of the scene was a bitter smile from Lord Wanwei. "I never thought my Wanwei would have a day like an ant seeing the sky." Lin Yuan had watched many times. It was after passing the 200 millionth tribulation that Lord Wanwei chose to pursue the perfect time being. What on earth did the will of the Supreme Rule Dao erase? Is there any connection between what Lord Wanwei and the Returning Ruins Lord went through? Lin Yuan was quite curious. Setting aside the returning ruins lord to make such a strong being as Lord Wanwei have a fractured mind and voluntarily abandon the selected path of transcendence, it wasn't simply due to strength alone, but rather seeing no hope at all. If it were due to encountering a stronger being, it wouldn't have pushed Lord Wanwei to make such a decision. However, all of this is still far from me, Lin Yuan thought silently. He was just beginning to embark on the endless calamities path of transcendence, not to mention the 330 million tribulations of the third stage. Even the first stage was uncertain how many epochs it would take to cross. Speculating the affairs of Lord Wanwei and the returning Ruins Lord is still too early, outside the Gold Moon dimension. After assembling the remnant of the returning Ruins Lord and delivering the intended message, it quickly dissipated. In fact, the returning Ruins Lord left this remnant solely to convey the intended message, with no other purpose. The reason the Dragonstone Lord was affected to the point of losing self-control was completely because he was too weak and couldn't bear the message the returning Ruins Lord wanted to transmit. Along with the dissipation of the remnant, the Dragonstone Lord gradually awoke from slumber. The Dragonstone Lord, felt unprecedentedly light, and the usual chaos within his mind and will was no longer present, as though a divine mountain off his shoulders was removed. The pollution from the returning Ruins Lord's remnant is gone? The Dragonstone Lord was overjoyed and immediately bowed to Lin Yuan. Thank you, Lord Galaxy. The Dragonstone Lord sincerely thanked Lin Yuan, even though he had paid with a top-level dimension space and all his possessions, the Sand of Time. But all of these were far less than his own self. Don't celebrate too early. Lin Yuan waved his hand. I have only eradicated the remnant pollution in your physical soul and deep in your mind for now. Whether it has been completely eradicated and whether there are residuals in your mind cannot be assured. Involving such terrifying beings as the returning Ruins Lord, even just a remnant can't be underestimated. Especially since the Dragonstone Lord's own strength was not strong, he had no resistance against the remnant, possibly having it parasitize his mind without even knowing. However, even if there were any hidden dangers, without the support of the main remnant, the remaining impact on the Dragonstone Lord would be much smaller. Moreover, based on Lin Yuan's previous eradication efforts, the majority of the returning Ruins Lord's remnants were likely already locked away. Chapter 1451-3 100,000 Years, Part 2, Chapter 1451-3 100,000 Years, Part 2. I know this, the Dragonstone Lord immediately said. Then Dragonstone won't disturb Lord Galaxy, the Dragonstone Lord said cautiously. All right. Lin Yuan nodded. Next, he needs to complete the test of his first trial, purifying the Golden Moon dimension. Lord Galaxy, then I'll take my leave as well. The shopkeeper of Time-Space Shop did not dare to linger. When unaware of Lin Yuan's true power, the shopkeeper of Time-Space Shop dared to stand by. But having witnessed Lin Yuan's actions and the rumored Galaxy Lord, the shopkeeper of Time-Space Shop suddenly felt immense pressure, no longer daring to continue the conversation with Lin Yuan. All right. Lin Yuan glanced at the shopkeeper of Time-Space Shop. Quickly, the two lords disappeared. Golden Moon Dimension. Lin Yuan turned to look at the Golden Moon Dimension, and a vast spiritual power immediately enveloped it. Before beginning to purify the dimensional space, Lin Yuan certainly needed to understand the situation of this dimension, the empty dimensional gap region. The figure of the Dragonstone Lord appeared, and next to him, the figure of the shopkeeper of Time-Space Shop emerged. Time-Space, what exactly is Lord Galaxy's origin? Such power, the Dragonstone Lord couldn't help but ask. Initially, when polluted by the lingering thoughts of the returning Ruins Lord, the Dragonstone Lord spent a significant cost to meet a certain legendary lord. But the other party didn't intend to intervene. The pollution of the returning Ruins Lord's lingering thoughts was something ordinary. Legendary lords were unwilling to touch. However, Lin Yuan spent merely a few days to mostly eradicate it. This level of power is definitely not that of a common legendary lord. Lord Galaxy, even the shopkeeper of Time-Space Shop felt puzzled. When Lin Yuan acted in the Wanwei time-space, he displayed methods at the level of a legendary lord, but that was in the future. As for the present time-space, he is not a legendary lord, otherwise he couldn't have been forced out of the future self by the Blood Sea Lord. Just now, effortlessly lifting the Dragonstone Lord and easily eradicating the lingering thoughts of the returning Ruins Lord that no legendary lord dared to touch? This terrifying power probably belongs to the strong among the legendary lords. In short, remember, never offend Lord Galaxy. Unable to understand, the shopkeeper of Time-Space Shop just responded perfunctorily to the Dragonstone Lord. Even if I have the courage, I wouldn't dare offend Lord Galaxy. The Dragonstone Lord shrank his head. He personally faced a part of the force displayed by Lin Yuan when he acted, the kind of oppressive feeling beyond comprehension likely to be unforgettable for a lifetime. Golden Moon Dimension. Lin Yuan sat cross-legged, carefully experiencing every detail of this top-notch dimensional space. Unlike the Chaos Void and Milky Way dimension, the origin Dao of this dimensional space is named Golden Moon Origin Dao, possessing both utmost firmness and utmost yin characteristics. A decent origin Dao. Lin Yuan slightly nodded. At his level, a few glances at an ordinary origin Dao are enough to understand. Against heaven's understanding combined with the life height of a lord greatly reduces the usefulness of ordinary top-level dimensional spaces for Lin Yuan. Why does the Supreme Rule Dao will want me to purify this dimensional space? Lin Yuan didn't immediately start the purification method, but fell into brief contemplation. At present, it seems this dimensional space has nothing special. The dimensional origin Dao is rare, but across the vast dimensional gaps, countless special origin Daos exist unknown. The Golden Moon origin Dao is not particularly outstanding. Never mind, better to nurify it soon. After sensing for a while and noticing nothing unusual, Lin Yuan began to operate the purification method. The purification method originates from the Supreme Rule Dao will simultaneously appearing in Lin Yuan's mind with the test content of his first trial. Buzz, buzz, buzz. As the purification method operated, an invisible aura began to permeate the depths of the Golden Moon dimension time-space. This invisible aura didn't possess any corrosive characteristics, but continuously spread until it encompassed the entire Golden Moon dimension. According to the purification method information, it only needs to be maintained for 100 years. Lin Yuan thought to himself. This update is available on nvelfire.net. The specific content of his Endless Trials first test is Purify the Golden Moon dimension for 100 years. In fact, the difficulty of this trial is not great. The only thing that needs to be resolved is the Dragonstone Lord. The Dragonstone Lord's power is close to the extreme of the second layer Lord, not too strong. Even if his state is chaotic and special, one can wait for him to regain clarity and attempt a transaction. After all, there's no time limit on this trial's test. Even if it isn't a monstrous lord like Lin Yuan, but an ordinary Time Lord, completing this ordeal isn't difficult. It's just a matter of being a little later. Even if he doesn't establish a clear agreement with the Dragonstone Lord, he can wait until the Dragonstone Lord is driven completely insane by the lingering thoughts of the returning Ruins Lord. According to the Dragonstone Lord's condition, at most, after a few dozen Great Destruction cycles, he won't even be able to maintain the basic, occasional clarity. At time, it's estimated that he'll rush out of the Golden Mode dimension in madness. Rumbling. With the passage of time, the purification method continuously operated. 90 years later, Lin Yuan keenly noticed that threads of black aura were being driven out by the purification method. These auras, Lin Yuan observed the threads of black aura. The black aura emitted an essence completely opposite, even diametrically opposed, to the infinite dimensional planes. This aura can lead to the irreversible destruction of dimensional space, with no so-called rebirth. Lin Yuan's expression was slightly solemn. The destruction and rebirth of dimensional space is the operational law of the vast dimensional planes. Whereas irreversible destruction means no rebirth, so-called destruction is absolute destruction. This obviously violates the operational laws of the Supreme Rule Dao's will. I see. Lin Yuan's expression was thoughtful. The so-called infinite tribulation, path of transcendence, essentially drives lords to resolve anything that violates the operational laws of the Supreme Rule Dao. Buzzing, the black aura continuously seeped out, but finally, in the 99th year, the seeping black aura quickly diminished. By the 100th year, no matter how Lin Yuan operated the purification method, he couldn't drive out any thread of black aura. It's over. Seeing this, Lin Yuan nodded slightly. Clearly, the black aura present within the Golden Moon dimension had been completely purified. However, the first ordeal required purification for 100 years, so he still needed to wait for the 100th year to pass to be considered as having overcome this ordeal. Boom! The will of the Supreme Rule Dao descended, and Lin Yuan immediately knew he had passed the first ordeal. In the next moment, a mysterious force poured into Lin Yuan's body. Under the nourishment of this force, Lin Yuan's physical, spiritual, and mental will slowly improved. A few breaths later, this improvement stopped. Is this the benefit of passing the infinite tribulation? Lin Yuan thought to himself. The infinite tribulation path of transcendence became the most well-known for reasons beyond its clear targets. More importantly, after overcoming each ordeal, one can immediately receive feedback, which means an increase in power. It's average. Lin Yuan assessed the changes in his strength before and after and concluded, passing the first ordeal had only a minimal impact on his strength growth. But Lin Yuan wasn't surprised by this. First, because he only passed the first ordeal of the infinite tribulation. It's considered the easiest ordeal. The improvement shouldn't be significant. Secondly, Lin Yuan's starting point was already immensely strong. His inherent power was so vast that minor improvements were difficult to notice. Take it slow. Lin Yuan thought to himself. If one ordeal doesn't provide a significant boost, then what about 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, or even a billion ordeals? The quantitative change leads to a qualitative change, not to mention the trials of the second layer, the trials of the third layer, which provide far more enhancement for a lord than those of the first layer. The second ordeal. After completing the first ordeal, Lin Yuan immediately began preparing for the next, the second ordeal. With his power, he could pass any ordeal before the third stage without any suspense. and he had the world-breaking origin force as a fail-safe method. And so, time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, 10,000 years had gone by. Chapter 452, Chapter 4, The Tremor of Endless Dimensional Yuan. Chapter 452, Chapter 4, The Tremor of Endless Dimensional Yuan, somewhere in the vast dimensional rift. A terrifying crack stretches across, its destination unknown. Every moment, it emits an inexplicable aura that assimilates the space in the dimensional rift, like a giant abyssal mouth devouring everything it can. Far from this terrifying crack, there are dimensional spaces, yet under the continuous suction of the crack, these dimensional spaces slowly move towards it. It can be foreseen that once the dimensional spaces approach the crack, they will be completely consumed without hesitation. It's here. Lin Yuan's figure appears nearby, gazing from afar at the crack that devours the universe. Is the target of my last trial in the first phase of 36,002,000 tribulations to completely seal this crack? Lin Yuan thought to himself. Since entering the Third Realm and becoming a Time Lord 10,000 years ago, most of Lin Yuan's energy and focus have been dedicated to the path of transcendence known as infinite tribulations. Infinite origin has an unclear goal as no one knows the source of time, and perfect time being relies too much on fate. Lin Yuan is unwilling to gamble his destiny. After much consideration, only infinite tribulations seem relatively reliable among the three paths of transcendence. Even though there may be significant risks when the road nears its end, the early and mid stages are quite safe, and each tribulation successfully overcome leads to a real and tangible increase in strength. This is the feedback from the endless dimensional realm, even for someone as strong as Lin Yuan. 1 tribulation, 10 tribulations, 100 tribulations may not make much difference, but the cumulative enhancements from completing 10,000, millions, billions of tribulations are still quite substantial. Once the objective was clear and capable of completing the initial dozens of tribulations and understanding the difficulty ahead, Lin Yuan then gradually unleashed himself and started multiple hundreds of tribulations simultaneously. Then, he sent avatars to complete them. This is the reason Lin Yuan was able to complete 36,002,000 tribulations in just 10,000 years. If he were to go through each tribulation individually, not even 10,000, 100,000, a million, or a billion years would be enough to pass 36,002,000 tribulations. Of course, only Lin Yuan dared to simultaneously activate dozens to hundreds of tribulations. Firstly, his strength is strong enough that the trials in the first phase of infinite tribulations pose no difficulty for him. Secondly, he has the world-breaking origin force as a safety net. Even if he encounters a particularly tricky tribulation, the world-breaking origin force can be spent to forcibly pass. And the facts show that in 10,000 years, Lin Yuan has never used the world-breaking origin force for 36,002,000 tribulations. He mainly relied on his own strength to overcome them. In the second stage of tribulations, more caution is needed. Lin Yuan watched the terrifying crack in the distance while planning in his mind. In the first stage of tribulations, the goal was essentially to complete a specific target, so Lin Yuan dared to activate multiple tribulations simultaneously. But the second stage of tribulations, there's a small chance that Lin Yuan's mental will might be dragged into a special world, requiring him to pass tests within this special world, similar to entering the time cycle world to become a time being. Once such tribulations are encountered, Lin Yuan might not be able to divide his attention to manage other tribulations concurrently. My current strength, Lin Yuan felt the immense force within him, akin to dimensional spaces, a smile emerging on his face. The increase brought by 36,002,000 tribulations is indeed impressive. Moreover, combined with Lin Yuan's own cultivation, creation of the fourth Tai Tai Su in the innate five great, and subsequent exploration of the origin world, his strength soared, far surpassing his power 10,000 years ago. I wonder how my strength compares to a legendary lord who has undergone 3 billion tribulations? 10,000 years ago, the Purple Light legendary lord could exchange some moves with him. Discover more novels at novelfire.net. But now? The Purple Light legendary lord is simply not his match, and Lin Yuan's virtual true form ensures he stands inherently undefeated. As for other offensive maneuvers, even a slight ripple is enough to nearly annihilate the Purple Light legendary lord. It's a pity there's no real legendary lord who has undergone 3 billion tribulations to spar with me. Lin Yuan shook his head slightly, feeling a sense of regret. Although his power is fearsome, his experience over the years remains too short. To this day, he has never met a true legendary lord of the 3 billion tribulations. Legendary lords who have undergone 3 billion tribulations have almost seen the end of the Transcendence Road, and the returning Ruins Lord is at this level. Such legendary lords, even a mere retreat or slumber, spans entire cycles of cataclysm, and their presence can no longer be defined by spatial dimensions. They are likely roaming in a distant past or future. Unless a significant event occurs in the present time-space, it's impossible to lure these lords back. But the innate fifth Tai, deep within Lin Yuan's eyes, 4 interweaving powers subtly exist. Tai Yi, Tai Chu, Tai Shu, Tai Shu. The 4 innate Tai are intertwining, intending to give birth to the 5th Tai. Take it slow. I still have plenty of time. Lin Yuan contained his thoughts, continuing to observe the terrifying crack in the distance. According to the Supreme Rule Dao's will in descending tribulations, the existence of this crack opposes the endless dimensional realm's operation. Lin Yuan thought, the source that devours everything? Even dimensional spaces are not exempt? Indeed, it stands in opposition to the endless dimensional realm. If this terrifying crack is left unchecked and the Supreme Rule Dao's will doesn't intervene, the consequences could be extremely dire. Chapter 1453, 4. The Tremor of Endless Dimensional Yuan. Chapter 1453, 4. The Tremor of Endless Dimensional Yuan. For an ordinary Time Lord of the first stage, sealing this rift might require a significant sacrifice, perhaps even calling upon friends. No wonder it's considered the final calamity of the first phase. Lin Yuan smiled slightly, yet for me, it's still quite simple. After observing the rift for a brief moment, Lin Yuan had understood enough to proceed with the sealing. Whoosh! The very next moment, Lin Yuan appeared near the terrifying rift. The frightening pull from the rift couldn't shake Lin Yuan in the slightest. With Lin Yuan's arrival, from the depths of the terrifying rift, waves of will suddenly emanated. If you don't want to die, scram. These waves of will were laced with a cold, ruthless tone. Before you, many like you have tried to seal me, yet I've devoured them all. Oh? Lin Yuan was slightly moved. The existence of a will in the depths of the terrifying rift wasn't unexpected, but according to the other party, there had been lords here before attempting a sealing, only to fail? It seems the first stage of the endless calamity isn't guaranteed to be overcome, Lin Yuan thought to himself. The first phase consists of 36 billion and 2,000 calamities, usually manageable with caution, but mishaps occur, and some lords don't succeed. Lords who failed to seal the terrifying rift naturally met a singular fate. That is, they were erased by the will of the Supreme Rule Dao. What about you? Do you wish to be devoured by me as well? The will from the depths of the rift asked with growing interest upon seeing Lin Yuan remain. These words were meant to lure Lin Yuan closer, for the devouring of such powerful life forms could nourish it. I believe you won't be able to devour me. Lin Yuan stepped forward again, approaching the very edge of the terrifying rift. Ha 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 ha, fool. The will from the depths of the rift burst into laughter, and the nearby suction surged dramatically. Even space-time itself rushed toward the rift. Tai Yi. With a fleeting thought, Lin Yuan summoned a wisp of Tai Yi power, transforming it into chains that began to cover the terrifying rift. To ensure a swift resolution without prolonging the ordeal, Lin Yuan intended to seal the rift at full speed without holding back. Buzzes. The seemingly inconspicuous Tai Yi power, as it stretched over the terrifying rift, grew larger and thicker, obscuring the sky and rapidly ensnaring the rift. What a terrifying method! You must be the strongest among those who seek to seal me. The will from the depth conveyed its sentiment again, yet merely with these, you cannot seal me. Tai Chu. With another subtle thought, Lin Yuan gathered Tai Chu power, continuing to weave them into chains to cover the terrifying rift. Tai Yi and Tai Chu, as the forefront of the innate five great, rapidly formed two fundamentally different chains, instantly encompassing and enveloping the entire terrifying rift. Given Lin Yuan's current strength, even a casual display of these two powers was terrifying to the extreme, thoroughly severing the pervasive suction in the surrounding space-time. Zits! The chains formed by Tai Yi and Tai Chu power imprisoned the terrifying rift, instantly beginning to refine and seal it. An intangible aura permeated the confinement of the chains, causing the terrifying rift to continuously collapse upon contact with the combined power of these two forces. Such a method, at most, will only allow me to... The will from the depth initially felt there was nothing noteworthy. But in just half a moment, the intangible aura extinguished half of the terrifying rift. What kind of method is this? No, you can't seal me. I can offer you benefits. The last word remained unfinished, as no further sound or will emanated. For the entire terrifying rift had been completely isolated and sealed. The intangible aura even penetrated the deepest parts of the rift, heavily wounding that will. Benefits. What benefits could you offer me? Lin Yuan was unfazed. Through enduring the 36 billion and 2,000 calamities, he had gained an understanding of entities similar to the will within rift depths. They were nothing more than parasitic worms in the infinite dimensions, remnants of a malfunctioning Dao operation. Could the benefits they offer surpass the feedback from the infinite dimensions? Furthermore, bypassing the will in the rift depths would mean Lin Yuan's failure, provoking the Supreme Rule Dao to personally obliterate him. Lin Yuan naturally knew the choice he had to make. From afar, in the numerous dimensional spaces, strong entities sensed their home dimensions moving toward the terrifying rift, but found themselves helpless. Without the power of a stage 13 time life form, they couldn't survive long after leaving their dimensions. Originally, these strong beings could only wait desperately as their home dimensions edged closer to being entirely consumed by the rift. But as Lin Yuan took action, they stood dumbstruck as the rift they had deemed hopeless was rapidly vanishing. Updates are released by NovelFire.net. Which great being has saved us? The beings within each dimensional space worshipped fervently, never witnessing who intervened, yet they revered and admired the unseen savior. It's over. Within just half a breath, the terrifying rift completely vanished. The sweeping refining power of Tai and Taichu did not allow the terrifying rift any resistance. Other Time Lords, even if they could seal the terrifying rift, would have to spend countless ages, enduring possibly tens or hundreds of great destructive cycles, inching their way to seal the will in the rift depths. But for Lin Yuan, resolving everything in less than half a breath, it was an absolute display of overwhelming power. In the following moment, boom, the feedback from the infinite dimensions poured into Lin Yuan's body. As the final calamity of the first stage, its difficulty far surpassed the previous billions of calamities, naturally leading to a greater feedback intensity. It took Lin Yuan dozens of breaths to conclude the feedback state. Not bad. Lin Yuan nodded slightly. Although the power gain was modest, there was still more to follow. The second stage's calamities should provide feedback no less significant than this one after each trial. Time to head back. Lin Yuan didn't bother checking anything further. He turned and left. With even the Supreme Rule Dao confirming Lin Yuan's passage through the trial, there was no need to verify anything. Many new causes and effects? Suddenly, Lin Yuan felt stirred, looking toward the distant dimensional spaces. With a thought, he immediately identified the source of these causes and effects. By sealing and resolving the terrifying rift, he had spared these dimensional spaces from destruction, leading countless beings within to worship and, as a result, naturally forming a web of causal ties. Of course, these causal connections were one-sided, only Lin Yuan could perceive them, while the other beings were unaware of Lin Yuan's existence. Chaos Void. Lin Yuan sat cross-legged. With the first stage's trials concluded, it's time to begin the second stage. Lin Yuan enhanced his spiritual will, contacting the will of the Supreme Rule Dao, soon receiving the specifics of his second stage trial. Quite simple. Lin Yuan glanced over it, finding it manageable, and promptly sent the Taiji Primordial Spirit to fulfill it. The power of the Taiji Primordial Spirit was now in no way inferior to Lin Yuan's true self, though when divided into Taiyin Primordial Spirit and Taiyang Divine Spirit it was slightly weaker. In the boundless vastness of the infinite dimensions, suddenly, ripples of strange energy surfaced in a distant time-space. This energy emerged from nowhere, supreme yet immediate, rapidly spreading and penetrating the infinite dimensions. What's happening? What is this power? It can actually affect the infinite dimensions? Time Lords expressed disbelief, and some ancient legendary lords were forcefully awakened, incredulously sensing the peculiar power waves permeating nearly the entire dimensional reality. Chapter 1454, 5, The Fourth Path to Transcendence. Chapter 1454, 5, The Fourth Path to Transcendence. The power that shakes the entire endless dimension, even the will of the Supreme Rule Dao is retreating. Transcendence, it must be related to transcendence. No wonder I couldn't observe the current timeline over 100,000 years ago, so that's how it is, that's how it is, that's how it is. One by one, the ancient legendary lords appeared, and those who roamed the past and future quickly returned to this time and space, sensing the strange force that penetrated the vast dimensions. Rustle. As time and space distorted, a 12-armed figure appeared, looking up at the source of the strange vibrations. At this moment, that place was in a state of absolute chaos, with an inexplicable force spreading and diffusing. Fantian, you've returned as well. Not far from the 12-armed figure, another figure condensed, its form changing at every moment, as if replicating everything in the endless dimensions. Wan Sheng, what do you think this power is? The 12-armed figure Fantian Lord asked casually. If there were other legendary lords present, they would be shocked to discover that both Fantian Lord and Lord Wan Sheng are incredibly ancient and powerful legendary lords. Long before countless ages, they were already acknowledged as terrifying beings who had passed the 300 millionth tribulation of their final stage, nearing the end of the path of transcendence. Related to transcendence, how would I know exactly what power it is? Lord Wan Sheng said, a hint of longing in his gaze. Wasn't the pursuit of such power the very reason he traveled through the ancient past and distant future? Buzz. At this moment, another figure gathered, Haoshen. Lord Wan Sheng glanced at the third figure, his expression showing caution. Fantian Lord and Lord Haoshen were known as the Twin Heavens among the many legendary lords, and their fame stretched across many time-space continuums both past and future. As time passed, one figure after another appeared, this being the location closest to the source of the strange vibrations, where only legendary lords nearby the 300 millionth tribulation or close might stand. The sage has arrived. Suddenly, a figure condensed, drawing the attention of many legendary lords. The sage? Even Fantian Lord, Lord Haoshen, and other legendary lords fixed their eyes on the last arriving figure. The sage was not the most powerful of legendary lords, having only passed the 260th millionth tribulation of their final stage. Unable to compare with beings like Lord Haoshen or Fantian Lord. Yet the years experienced by the sage were undoubtedly the most ancient among all legendary lords. It is said that shortly after this endless dimension was created, the sage was born. Legendary lords from the same era as the sage have mostly perished on some path of transcendence. This is because the sage never undertakes anything without assurance. In exploring the infinite tribulations, too, he never attempts to cross without certainty. And having experienced such a long, ancient time, he knows secrets vast as the sea of knowledge, thus earning the title of the Sage. Though legendary lords can observe the timelines of past and future, many secrets, especially those related to transcendence, cannot be seen on the timeline. They must be personally experienced. The Sage, Lord Wan Xiang, spoke. What do you think is the cause of this transcendence-level power's appearance? The cause? The sage quietly stared at the source of the strange vibrations, not directly answering. I remember when I had just become a lord, a major event occurred in the endless dimensions. When you first became a lord? A major event? The legendary lords became curious. When the sage had just become a lord? How many ancient ages ago could that have been? At that time, I was still very weak. It was Wu Yu Lord who shook the vast dimensions, reaching the pinnacle of lordship, striving towards the 14th rank, the evolution into a perfect time being. The transition from imperfect to perfect, such a leap in life essence, induced a tremor throughout the dimension. Although Wu Yu Lord eventually failed, subsequent lords understood that the perfect time being is the pinnacle for us lords, and from then on, the perfect time being became a path of transcendence. The sage's tone held a trace of nostalgia. The path of transcendence to become a perfect time being, unlike infinite origin or infinite tribulations, was one explored personally by lords. Are you suggesting that this power might evolve into a new path of transcendence? For the first time, Lord Hawashan spoke. Over the long eras, many paths of transcendence have existed, but only 3 are mainstream and recognized by the majority of lords. Perfect time being, infinite origin, infinite tribulations. Indeed, such a scene that shakes the entire dimension has only occurred once before, during the first transition from imperfect to perfect. The sage nodded, then added, but this is just my speculation, I can't be certain. Let's wait. Whether it is the 4th path of transcendence or not, we'll know if we wait and see. Fantian Lord spoke. Upon hearing this, the other legendary lords suppressed their inner restlessness and began to wait patiently. Soon enough, under the watchful gaze of all legendary lords, the source of the strange vibrations suddenly began to burst, with strands of energy cascading into the endless dimensions. Each strand transformed as it descended, forming step after step of white jade stairs. The lower end of the white jade stairs connected to the endless dimension, while the upper end? It was seemingly endless, leading upwards, as if reaching the eternal heights. Chapter 1455, 5, The 4th Path to Transcendence, Part 2, Chapter 1455, 5, The 4th Path to Transcendence, Part 2, White Jade Steps, the legendary lords closely observe. There are 33,333 white jade steps, scattered across infinite dimensional realms. Lord Wansheng looked at the steps and spoke. Let's go and take a look. Lord Haoshin took a step forward and immediately appeared before the nearest white jade step. From this angle, the white jade steps spread upward endlessly, without beginning or end. The transcendent power forming these steps is certainly not meaningless. The legendary lords kept scrutinizing, yet none dared to step onto the first step. Since none of you dare, I'll go. Fantian Lord glanced at the other legendary lords, then boldly stepped onto the first step. Standing on the first step, Fantian Lord's expression changed slightly, paused for a moment, then stepped onto the second step. After several dozen breaths, Fantian Lord was already climbing more than 10 steps. No issue, Fantian is fine. Seeing this, other legendary lords attempted to step on the first step as well. What's this? A legendary lord's pupils contracted. I can sense the metamorphosis direction of my own chaotic origin Dao. As long as I follow this direction, I can metamorphose towards the supreme rule Dao. Indeed, I felt it too. So chaotic origin Dao is not the end. We also have hope to enter the supreme rule Dao's level. The eyes of the legendary lords were fervent. The supreme rule Dao? That is a being on par with the perfect time being. The supreme rule Dao's will is referred to as half a perfect time being because its power influences everything, omnipotent. Metamorphosing one's own chaotic origin Dao into the supreme rule Dao? Isn't that transcendence? The path of transcendence. As long as you reach the end of the white jade steps, the chaotic origin Dao will metamorphose into the supreme rule Dao, allowing transcendence. These white jade steps are the path of transcendence, the 4th path of transcendence. Numerous thoughts surged in the hearts of the legendary lords, and they began to climb the white jade steps. However, most of the legendary lords did not choose this set of white jade steps, opting to head for other steps instead. After the strange fluctuations erupted, a total of 33,333 white jade steps were formed, not just the one before them. Especially Lord Haoshin, Lord Wansheng, and other lords, with Fantian Lord already leading on these steps, they didn't wish to compete with him. Even if the white jade steps are the path of transcendence, the number of lords who can transcend is certainly limited. Fantian is already on this path, so I will choose another. Lord Haoshin turned his thoughts and headed to another set of white jade steps. The path of transcendence. The sage's gaze was complex, murmuring to himself, I wonder how many legendary lords will perish this time. Having experienced long eras and cycles of great devastation, the sage naturally understood that the path of transcendence is both hope and a dead end. Regarding the fourth path of transcendence, it's unknown how many legendary lords have fallen upon it. I've lived so long, perhaps I should try this time as well? The sage approached another set of white jade steps, equally stirred by desire. Though renowned among the legendary lords, merely the endless years they've experienced reverently him, yet the sage knew that to lords like Haoshan, Fantian, and Wan Xiang, there was disregard toward him. For the legendary lords, mere survival doesn't hold much meaning. To die in pursuit of transcendence is the true end. My friends have all died on the path of transcendence. I should make a gamble as well. The sage turned his thoughts 1,000 times, finally choosing to step onto the first set of white jade steps. In the chaos void, Lin Yuan suddenly opened his eyes, feeling the strange fluctuations enveloping the whole dimensional realm. The first stage of the second phase of endless trials, my Taiji primordial spirit entering a special place, causing me to focus entirely on it and now only noticing. Lin Yuan furrowed his brows, initially believing the first stage of the second phase to be easy, which it was indeed, not difficult, yet briefly occupied all of Lin Yuan's focus. Galaxy. Purple Light Legendary Lord messaged, you should be aware of the White Jade Steps, right? Just became aware. Lin Yuan nodded. A batch of Legendary Lords has already stepped onto the White Jade Steps. Purple Light Legendary Lord remarked, across infinite dimensional realms, there are 33,333 White Jade Steps, considered the fourth path of transcendence. The fourth path of transcendence? Lin Yuan's eyes showed astonishment as images of the White Jade Steps appeared before him. He had seen similar images more than once, 3 times to be exact. The last time he saw the White Jade Steps was over 100,000 years ago, when the Blood Sea Lord's legendary future self forced out Lin Yuan's future self, and the future image included the White Jade Steps. As for the time before that, it was before Lin Yuan broke through to being a time life form. Before the time loop trials descended, Lin Yuan slept for 2,000 years, dreaming countless peculiar dreams. One among them featured scenes akin to the White Jade Steps. In that dream, he reached the end of the White Jade Steps, encountering an unbelievable light gate and a blurry figure leaning against its threshold. Ascending the White Jade Steps reveals one's chaotic origin Dao's metamorphosis direction towards becoming the supreme rule Dao. Purple Light Legendary Lord spoke, voice also somewhat unstable. For a time life form, the level of chaotic origin Dao was already the limit. Even legendary lords possess Daos of chaotic origin Dao only in greater numbers. And one's chaotic origin Dao metamorphosing towards the supreme rule Dao? No wonder the White Jade Steps are known as the fourth path of transcendence. If true, it is indeed such a path. Why is the infinite trials referred to as the path of transcendence? Because with each passing trial, one's strength increases. Even without ultimate transformation, merely the enhancements from tens of billions of trials suffice for transcendence. The White Jade Steps follow a similar principle, as long as one's chaotic origin Dao metamorphoses to the supreme rule Dao, that is, transcendence. Without any restrictions, Lin Yuan asked, the infinite trials enhance strength only after completing a trial. Only through effort comes reward. Restrictions do exist, Purple Light Legendary Lord commented. Currently, those already stepping on the White Jade Steps indicate that each step provides direction for one's chaotic origin Dao to metamorphose towards the supreme rule Dao. Yet, it's merely a direction. You need to comprehend and elevate your chaotic origin Dao to that level to ascend the next step. Moreover, each step bears an inexplicable pressure, with pressure increasing as more steps are climbed. Pausing momentarily, Purple Light Legendary Lord continued, all White Jade Steps may only be climbed by lords, not by time beings below the third realm. They can at most perceive, unable to touch. This last point is normal. Other transcendence paths also require attaining lordship to access them. I see, Lin Yuan nodded. Here are the positions of the 33,333 White Jade Steps. Galaxy, which one do you choose, so I can avoid you? Purple Light Legendary Lord whispered. In one-way time-space, Purple Light Lord remembered Lin Yuan's future self standing atop White Jade Steps. Although unaware of the exact height Lin Yuan had reached then, it was clear that he probably led most Legendary Lords, so Purple Light Legendary Lord naturally dared not choose the same path of transcendence as Lin Yuan. I chose this one. While conversing with Purple Light Legendary Lord, his true self had already arrived at this set of White Jade Steps. Chapter 1456, 6, Ascending the Heavenly Steps. Chapter 1456, 6, Ascending the Heavenly Steps, White Jade Steps. Lin Yuan carefully observed the step after step of seemingly endless White Jade Steps. Compared to the White Jade Steps he had seen twice before in dreams and in visions from fragments of the future. This time, with the White Jade Steps appearing directly before him, they were much clearer, with the surface etched with incredibly mysterious patterns, as if they could explain the ultimate essence of endless dimensions. Currently, there shouldn't be many legendary lords starting to climb these white jade steps. Lin Yuan glanced around. Although the transcendent power forming the white jade steps penetrated the entire dimensional plane, many legendary lords hadn't rushed over immediately, like Lin Yuan, who was a step later, and there were lords even later than Lin Yuan. Furthermore, there were as many as 33,333 white jade steps. This largely dispersed the many legendary lords. Is it my future from millions of years later to climb this path of transcendence? Lin Yuan felt slightly curious in his heart. Within one-way space-time, in the vision of summoning his future self, he saw a figure continuously ascending the steps. Let's begin. After briefly pondering for a moment, Lin Yuan stepped onto the white jade steps. When Lin Yuan's right foot landed on the white jade steps, he first felt his chaotic origin Taiji Dao trembling. The artistic conception of Lin Yuan's chaotic origin Taiji Dao began to rise, vaguely transforming toward the supreme direction. The Supreme Rule Dao, it's the Supreme Rule Dao. My chaotic origin Taiji Dao is evolving toward the Supreme Rule Dao. Even though he had long known from the Violet Light Legendary Lord about the benefits of climbing the White Jade Steps, Lin Yuan couldn't help but feel excited at this moment. Whether it's a Time Being, a Time Lord, or even a Legendary Lord, what they've comprehended are merely chaotic origin Dao. As for the Supreme Rule Dao, that is fundamental to maintaining the endless dimensional planes. If the Supreme Rule Dao has a concrete will, it would be the 14th rank perfect time being overlooking the endless dimensional planes. Unfortunately, the Supreme Rule Dao does not possess a will. Its so-called will is more like an instinct without any thought, similar to a piece of intelligence in a technology-type dimensional space. Just seeing the direction, it's still far from fully transforming into the Supreme Rule Dao. Lin Yuan's thoughts gathered. Of course, even merely seeing the direction is extremely important. Below the Time Lord, the path of cultivation, though difficult, still generally has guidance. However, after comprehending the chaotic origin Dao, the guidance is lost. And why do the Third Realm Lords explore various paths of transcendence at this stage? It's because the way forward has been locked, and only through transcendence can everything be broken open. In essence, the cultivation of the Third Realm Lords is equivalent to groping forward in endless darkness. Any slight carelessness results in falling and death. Before the appearance of the endless white jade steps, far too many lords fell on various paths of transcendence. Especially on the three main paths of transcendence. Over long years, many lords were buried, among them those incredibly talented, on the verge of reaching the end of a transcendental path. Pressure and distortion force. Not long after stepping onto the first white jade step, Lin Yuan, aside from feeling the tremor of his chaotic origin Dao, noticed a faint pressure and distortion force enveloping him. This pressure and distortion force targeted not only the physical body and soul, but also the mind and will. However, with Lin Yuan's current strength, blocking this pressure and distortion force was quite simple. Can't be careless. Lin Yuan's expression turned slightly serious. The pressure and distortion force were not strong now, but as he continued to climb the endless white jade steps, this force would continuously increase. This is what the Violet Light Legendary Lord learned from the information garnered by the Legendary Lords who were the first to climb the endless white jade steps. Continue. Lin Yuan paused on the first white jade step for roughly a few breaths before stepping onto the second white jade step. To step onto the next step, besides needing to resist the pressure and distortion force, one must comprehend their chaotic origin Dao to the extreme of the current step. The purpose of the white jade steps is akin to establishing a road from one's chaotic origin Dao to the Supreme Rule Dao. However, to walk this path, one must rely on themselves. As time passed, during the ascent of the endless white jade steps, Lin Yuan occasionally saw other legendary lords. These legendary lords, compared to Lin Yuan, often paused for a few days to several tens of days on a particular step before moving to the next. Thus, even the first batch that stepped onto the endless white jade steps were surpassed by Lin Yuan within just a few short days. On the endless white jade steps, Lin Yuan ascended neither hurriedly nor slowly, but within, he contemplated continuously. Climbing these white jade steps is indeed slowly transforming the chaotic origin Taiji Dao. In the depths of Lin Yuan's eyes faintly appeared a great Dao interwoven in black and white. Any chaotic origin Dao extends from the Supreme Rule Dao. The Dao produces one produces two produces three, and three produces all things. The Supreme Rule Dao is that Dao, and even beyond the Dao, it is zero, the source. The climbing of the white jade steps not only allowed Lin Yuan's chaotic origin Taiji Dao to transform, but also significantly advanced his understanding of the essence of the Dao. Why did these white jade steps appear? Transcendent power. Transcendent power also has a source. Which transcendent being did this? But why would that transcendent being do such a thing? Chapter 1457, 6, Ascending the Heavenly Steps, Part 2. Chapter 1457, 6, Ascending the Heavenly Steps, Part 2. Lin Yuan's heart was flooded with numerous confusions. He was certain that the white jade steps did not originate from the will of the Supreme Rule Dao. Because while on the White Jade Steps, even sensing the will of the Supreme Rule Dao became much more obscure for Lin Yuan. The will of the Supreme Rule Dao cannot interfere with anything on the White Jade Steps, which was a conclusion Lin Yuan easily reached. If the White Jade Steps didn't come from the will of the Supreme Rule Dao, then they must originate from other means of transcendence. But why would such a path to transcendence be released? To cultivate another transcendent? Within the dimension space, the time beings seek to nurture new time beings in order to face the scenario after the Great Havoc. The dimension's boundaries are vast and boundless. Even time beings need to band together, hence the need to cultivate new time beings. But for transcendent existences, why would they want to cultivate new transcendence? Do transcendent existences also have enemies? Lin Yuan shook his head slightly. The so-called transcendence is supreme and unparalleled, the pinnacle of everything, the source of everything. How could there possibly be enemies? Regardless of why transcendence would want to do so, the transformation of the chaotic origin Taiji Dao is undeniably real. As long as one comprehends it, it is a gain. Lin Yuan steadied himself, no longer pondering, and instead focused his entire mind on ascending the White Jade Steps. For this, the exploration on the path of transcendence of endless tribulations, as well as the subsequent exploration of the origin worlds, were all set aside by Lin Yuan, who devoted all his energy to the White Jade Steps. The transcendent path of endless tribulations has existed for countless ages. As long as the will of the Supreme Rule Dao exists, this path of transcendence will likely continue to exist indefinitely, so it doesn't worsen matters. As for the many origin worlds afterward, they are also there, so exploring them a bit later doesn't pose much of a problem. Only these White Jade Steps. Who knows when it will disappear? Compared to the transcendence paths like endless tribulations, the endless White Jade Steps poses pitifully little risk. At least for now, there seems to be almost no risk. At most, the speed of ascending the steps is a bit slow. This was the reason why, when 33,333 White Jade Steps formed, it attracted the attention of almost all the legendary lords. It encompasses the advantages of endless tribulations, yet it doesn't have any potential dangers. How could this not drive many legendary lords mad? Huff. A figure as large as a small mountain paused on a certain step for a long time, finally slowly stepped onto the next step. The Tao of my chaotic origin mountain, the mountain-sized figure, was named Mountain Lord, a legendary lord who has survived billions of tribulations, his gaze currently filled with excitement. Any legendary lord, upon seeing the direction toward the path of transcendence, would feel the same, as this is their ultimate goal. I can feel that if the Tao of the chaotic origin mountain continues to transform, one day it will become the new Supreme Rule Tao. By then, I, Mountain Lord, as the mountain-sized figure, was lost in thought. Suddenly, his expression changed slightly. Mountain Lord subtly twisted his body, looking toward his back, only to see a shadow faintly appearing below the steps, slowly yet firmly ascending towards his direction. Crossing steps that fast? Mountain Lord's expression changed slightly. After observing for just a few dozen breaths, the other had already ascended nearly 10 steps, averaging a few breaths per step. This speed of ascension contrasted sharply with Mountain Lord's current hundreds or thousands of breaths, sometimes even spending half a day just to ascend one step when encountering bottlenecks. Is it Galaxy? Mountain Lord immediately recognized Lin Yuan's identity. Over the past hundreds of thousands of years, although Lin Yuan hadn't made many moves, his name had spread far and wide, especially his terrifying future self, which made many powerful legendary lords extremely wary of him. Mountain Lord? Lin Yuan had long noticed Mountain Lord, but there was only one direction on the White Jade Steps, eventually bringing the two to a meeting. I've heard of the Galaxy Lord's name for a long time now, seeing it for myself. It truly lives up to its reputation. Mountain Lord paused for a moment, took the initiative to stop, and said while looking at Lin Yuan, "Galaxy Lord, you go ahead." "Thank you." Lin Yuan was slightly taken aback. Although there were no explicit rules, on this transcendence path of the endless White Jade Steps, the number of lords who can ultimately transcend must certainly be limited. Not every lord can transcend by this means. In other words, among the lords walking the White Jade Steps, strictly speaking, they are in a competitive relationship. Mountain Lord's voluntary concession surprised Lin Yuan a bit. The mountain-sized Mountain Lord watched Lin Yuan's continuing ascent, thinking silently to himself, "There are plenty of lords ahead of me. It doesn't make much of a difference if there's one more galaxy." As a legendary lord who has survived billions of tribulations, Mountain Lord did not expect to transcend using the White Jade Steps, as there are many legendary lords stronger than him. What Mountain Lord hoped for was, through the endless White Jade Steps, to optimize his own chaotic origin Tao as much as possible. Just like some lords who mainly walk the infinite origin path, they didn't mind exploring the endless tribulations path of transcendence to enhance their strength. The days spent climbing the endless White Jade Steps passed quickly, with Lin Yuan surpassing one legendary lord after another who was ahead of him. Facing Lin Yuan's surpassing pace, these lords went from indifference to hostility more and more intensely. Lords positioned relatively back, like Mountain Lord, didn't mind there being an additional galaxies in front. After all, whether or not Galaxy was present, there were still plenty of legendary lords ahead of them, so even if there was a chance for transcendence, it wouldn't reach them. But the legendary lords positioned ahead on this white jade step were different. They truly had a chance for transcendence, and being surpassed by Lin Yuan equated to reducing their own hopes for transcendence by a fraction. However, wary of Lin Yuan's past tens of thousands of years of moves, and the momentary appearances of his future self in the one-way time-space, most legendary lords refrained from impulsively taking action. Very soon, Lin Yuan climbed quickly, gradually approaching a legendary lord with a slender tail swaying. Lord Zhuohe? Lin Yuan glanced from afar, recognizing the name of this legendary lord. Lord Zhuo. He was a legendary lord who had survived 250 million tribulations. Among many legendary lords, he was already considered extremely powerful, even more strong-willed than Wanwei Lord who opened up Wanwei time-space. On this white jade step, ahead of me there is only the Dark Star Lord. As long as I surpass him, my hope for transcendence is still very high. Lord Zhuo, he thought to himself, the strength of Dark Star Lord was about the same as his, and his current leading was entirely due to stepping onto this white jade step a step earlier. Transcendence, Lord Zhuo, he was invigorated at heart. In the endless dimensional time-space through long ages, countless legendary lords much stronger than him had fallen on the path of transcendence. Yet now the hope for Lord Zhuo, his transcendence was greater than even those ancient legendary lords. The white jade steps can only be climbed by legendary lords of the current time-space, while legendary lords of the past and future time-spaces can't even perceive them, and even information about the white jade steps would be obscured. This is a great opportunity belonging to this time-space. Lord Zhuo. He took a deep breath, intending to continue ascending. Just then, Lord Zhuo he glanced downward. Galaxy? Lord Zhuo he frowned, and it took him just a moment to determine that Lin Yuan ascending the white jade steps was bound to surpass him sooner or later. Regarding the intelligence around Galaxy, Lord Zhuo he had also heard of it, holding a significant caution, albeit only caution. This is my hope for transcendence. Lord Zhuo. He looked down on Lin Yuan. While facing the Dark Star Lord ahead, he still held out hope for surpassing him. But as for Lin Yuan, with Lin Yuan's current speed of ascending the White Jade Steps, once Lin Yuan surpasses Lord Zhuo, the gap between them would only grow larger. No existence can destroy this. Lord Zhuo, he's Eves he came exceptionally dangerous. Towards the Galaxy Lord, he was merely cautious, not fearful. No matter how formidable the future may be, how could he simply watch as the other surpasses himself in a competition involving transcendence? Chapter 1458-7, The Terrifying Lin Yuan. Chapter 1458-7, The Terrifying Lin Yuan. If given a choice, Lord Zhuo, he would prefer not to conflict with Lin Yuan. But this is a struggle for transcendence, involving hope for transcendence. It's not just about Lin Yuan, even entities like Fantian Lord, Lord Haotian, who have survived over 300 million calamities. Lord Zhuo, he dares to take action and fight. Lord Zhuo do you intend to strike at me? Lin Yuan also sensed Lord Zhuo, his killing intent, stopped his climbing and observed his opponent. For Lin Yuan, this scene was anticipated and not surprising. With his climbing speed, he was destined to catch up with the leading legendary lords ahead. Most legendary lords might refrain from acting, as having one more or less Lin Yuan doesn't enhance their hope for transcendence. But a few legendary lords, especially those ranked among the front ones, will absolutely not willingly give up the chance for transcendence. Galaxy Lord, if you switch to another Jade Staircase, consider it a favor from me, treasure. Rare finds are at your request, as long as I can provide them. Lord Zhuo, he said earnestly, but if you insist on continuing to climb this Jade Staircase, don't blame me for fighting desperately. Lord Zhuo, he fixed his gaze on Lin Yuan as he spoke. Switch to another Jade Staircase? Lin Yuan chuckled. Why not directly ask me to give up this path of transcendence? 33,333 Jade Staircases scattered across endless dimensions, global legendary lords climbed in succession, obtaining various intelligence about the Jade Staircases. One point is that a lord can only climb one Jade Staircase at a time. In other words, if Lin Yuan withdrew from climbing this Jade Staircase and chose another, he'd have to start from scratch. A slow step, slow every step. Originally, Lin Yuan was already slightly behind the first batch of legendary lords. Choosing a new Jade Staircase, even though Lin Yuan's climbing speed could still catch up with the legendary lords ahead, starting over wasn't necessary. Isn't it possible that the other Jade Staircases have no legendary lords? Involving hope for transcendence, those legendary lords would surely make choices akin to Lord Zhuohe's, would still strike against Lin Yuan. In that case, Lord Zhuohe's figure suddenly exploded, transforming into a vast and mighty turbid river. Lord Zhuohe's true form is an immense turbid river of endless dimensional realms, born spirits at the limit of second layer, capable of challenging true time life forms. In terms of foundational mass, Lord Zhuohe is hundreds and thousands of times that of other beings at the same tier. Galaxy Lord, let me see if your reputation matches your strength, Lord Zhuo. His voice reverberated within the vast turbid river, its terrifying aura pressing against all archaic paths and time. That's Lord Zhuo, he has made his move. Indeed, Galaxy Lord's climbing speed is too fast, sooner or later, destined to collide with Lord Zhuo He. Ha 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 ha, it's uncertain if the Galaxy Lord can continue to climb. From below the Jade Staircase, many legendary lords noticed the change and stared from a distance at Lin Yuan and Lord Zhuo He's position. These legendary lords held not great hope for transcendence, but seeing Galaxy Lord and Lord Zhuo He clash, they became intrigued. Lin Yuan ascended step by step, with each legendary lord below lowering their heads in deference, now eager to witness Lin Yuan's true strength. Fight, fight. The more time you waste, the greater the gap I'll be able to widen. Above the Jade Staircases, a shadow of dark aura glanced below, not lingering to watch but continuing to climb. That was the Dark Star Lord, no weaker than Lord Zhuohe, possibly even stronger. Originally, the Dark Star Lord led Lord Zhuohe by a margin but still felt unsure, no assurance of remaining in the lead. But now, Lord Zhuohe, who was closely behind him, clashed with the Galaxy Lord, aligning with the Dark Star Lord's interests. Whether it was the Galaxy Lord or Lord Zhuohe, both were extremely strong. For such beings to determine victory, it can't be done quickly. What an intriguing life form. Lin Yuan observed the vast turbid river and nodded slightly. It's said that within the turbid river, all causalities are isolated and suppressed. Today, I see it for myself. Galaxy Lord, you still have a chance to turn back now. Lord Zhuo, his voice echoed continuously. No need. Lin Yuan shook his head, while raising his right hand. Tai Yi, Tai Chu, Tai Shu, Tai Shu, the four Tai forces intertwined and collided. Suppress. Seeing this, Lord Zhuo He, without hesitation, unleashed the mighty force of the turbid river, crushing towards Lin Yuan. Since Lin Yuan was unwilling to retreat, Lord Zhuo He naturally wouldn't hold back. Suppressing Lin Yuan swiftly and catching up or even surpassing the Dark Star Lord was what mattered. Buzzinga, the four Tai's forces intertwined at Lin Yuan's fingertips, rapidly expanding outward. Wherever the Tai forces passed, everything perished. Matter, non-matter, rules, cosmic paths, everything succumbed to the inevitable eradication. Except for the eternal Jade Staircase, everything perished quickly, including the mighty turbid river force. This is, Lord Zhuohe, once assured of his victory, underwent a dramatic change in expression in mere moments, sensing his true Hodi the turbid river had been over 70 nursant annihilated. The river, refined to its utmost, one drop can suppress ordinary lords, but under the four Tai's forces, it had no resistance whatsoever. Galaxy Lord, cease immediately. I am willing to let you ascend. I am willing to let you ascend. Chapter 1459-7, The Terrifying Lin Yuan. Chapter 159-7, The Terrifying Lin Yuan Lord Zhuo. He immediately shouted, his tone tinged with a trace of fear. If he had known the Galaxy Lord was so powerful, he wouldn't dare to obstruct even with 10 lives. Too late. Lin Yuan looked on calmly as the vast turbid river was obliterated. In less than half a breath, all of the river's waters vanished into dust, as if they had never existed. Lin Yuan looked up to see that Lord Zhuohe, who once blocked the stairs ahead, had already vanished. With my current strength, going all out, a legendary lord like Lord Zhuohe, who has crossed 250 million tribulations, is far from being my match. Lin Yuan thought to himself, assessing his own strength. To quickly conclude the battle and focus all his mind on climbing the White Jade Staircase, Lin Yuan did not hold back at all, going all out from the start, directly utilizing the power of 4 of the innate 5 greats he had comprehended. The result was evident. Lord Zhuo, he stood no chance against him. Of course, being able to end the battle so swiftly was partly due to Lin Yuan's strength. On the other hand, it was because on the White Jade Staircase, many of Lord Zhuo He's life-preserving techniques could not be used. The White Jade Staircase, transcending all, even the will of the Supreme Rule Dao, cannot interfere. On the staircase, there are only 2 directions to move, up and down. Going up? It requires enduring increasing pressure and twist force, and also realizing the direction of one's chaotic origin Dao's transformation. Lord Zhuo, he naturally couldn't flee upward. As for going down, the downward path was already blocked by Lin Yuan, so Lord Zhuo he could only bear the full might unleashed by Lin Yuan. Outside, if Lord Zhuo he found himself no match for Lin Yuan, he could still evade, he could still flee. But on the White Jade Staircase, he had to bear it head-on. This was the main reason for the quick end to the battle. If it weren't on the White Jade Staircase, even if Lin Yuan could crush Lord Zhuohe, it would likely have taken some time. Brought quite a few weapons and arms. Lin Yuan checked the spoils left after Lord Zhuohe's obliteration. Involving transcendence, it's nothing like the opportunities of Wanwei. Lin Yuan gently shook his head. The lords rarely carry important treasures and weapons when heading to Wanwei. Don't find yourself with only a few opportunities while your main battle body perishes, ending up with neither blessings nor troops. But on the White Jade Staircase? The White Jade Staircase is undoubtedly far more dangerous than Wanwei, yet the opportunities are countless times greater, offering hope for transcendence. In this circumstance, legendary lords climbing the White Jade Staircase naturally strive to enhance their strength to the utmost, seizing the chance to transcend. If treasures and weapons are lost, replacements can be found. But such an opportunity for transcendence, once missed, who knows if it will ever appear again? Weighing the importance, legendary lords naturally understand the significance. Somewhere in the infinite dimensional worlds. Galaxy Lord, how is the Galaxy Lord so powerful? Even Lord Hyoshin, Fantian Lord, they couldn't possibly. Lord Zhuo, he was incredulous. Lord Hyoshin, Fantian Lord, and other legendary lords who have crossed over 300 million tribulations are undoubtedly the most powerful in the current space-time realm. But compared to Lin Yuan, Lord Zhuo, he easily discerned that the pressure Lin Yuan exerted far surpassed that of Lord Haotian and Fantian Lord. Even if Lord Zhuo he considered himself not a match for Lord Haotian and other legendary lords, he shouldn't be utterly powerless. Even with the special environment of the White Jade Staircase, how is it possible that he can't even last a single breath? Who spread the word that the Galaxy Lord's strength lies in the future? Lord Zhuo. He felt anger and unwillingness in his heart. The most prevalent rumor about the Galaxy Lord was about his future strength, and future strength implies not being strong in the present. But from the looks of it now, this is called not being strong. The White Jade Staircase isolates everything. Here, not even the future can interfere. The Galaxy Lord relies on his own strength, not the future, Lord Zhuo, he quickly thought, realizing that not even the will of the Supreme Rule Dao can interfere, let alone the future self. Had better quickly choose another White Jade Staircase. Lord Zhuo, he collected his thoughts and immediately dispatched another main battle body to climb a different White Jade Staircase. If I had known, I wouldn't have obstructed the Galaxy Lord. Lord Zhuo, he felt considerable regret in his heart. If he hadn't obstructed the Galaxy Lord, he would still be among the top 3 on a certain White Jade Staircase, which is far better than starting anew. And if Lord Zhuo he hadn't obstructed, the first place Darkstar Lord would have likely taken over the task, leaving Lord Zhuo he in second place. On the endless White Jade Staircase, the legendary lords were left dumbfounded. The confrontation between the Galaxy Lord and Lord Zhuo, he attracted the attention of many legendary lords below. Initially, these legendary lords had high expectations for this battle. The Galaxy Lord aside, Lord Zhuo he had crossed 250 million tribulations. Such an existence rarely engages in combat. Regarding the outcome of the clash between Galaxy and Zhuo He, opinions among the legendary lords were divided. But the final result left all legendary lords in disbelief. It wasn't that no legendary lord predicted the Galaxy Lord would win, but the battle concluded too swiftly. Was Lord Zhuo he truly so feeble before the Galaxy Lord? Lord Zhuo he's strength? It's not about Lord Zhuo he's strength, it's that the Galaxy Lord is too strong. Indeed, even when Lord Zhuo he's true form appeared, he was still obliterated by the Galaxy Lord. Such strength, some legendary lords felt a shiver in their hearts. The stronger they were, the more they could sense the terror exuded by the Galaxy Lord. That was absolute domination, a terrifying strength that crushed someone like Lord Zhuo He, who has faced 250 million tribulations. Fortunately, I yielded my place before the Galaxy Lord caught up, otherwise I'd have had to start all over again. Most legendary lords felt immense relief, and many who had reluctantly made way felt justified. In hindsight, how wise had their actions been? High above the White Jade Staircase, the Darkstar Lord, who had been climbing with all his might, suddenly turned back. What is this? The Darkstar Lord was shaken to the core, especially witnessing the repeated obliteration of Lord Zhuo, his true form, leaving his heart with an indescribable shock. This Galaxy Lord, his strength is definitely beyond Lord Haotian and Fantian Lord. Compared to the legendary lords watching from below, the Darkstar Lord deduced more, directly comparing Lin Yuan to Lord Haotian and Fantian Lord. The conclusion left his heart trembling, surpassing Lord Haotian and Fantian Lord. This Galaxy? Was he truly not a legendary lord over 100,000 years ago? The Darkstar Lord's mind was full of swirling thoughts and emotions. Over 100,000 years ago, he wasn't even a legendary lord. And now, he surpasses Lord Haotian and Fantian Lord? Time passed by. After resolving matters with Lord Zhuohe, Lin Yuan continued his climb up the White Jade Staircase. Barely half a day later, Lin Yuan saw a legendary lord with a dark aura ahead. Darkstar Lord? Lin Yuan paused, looking toward the Darkstar Lord. Among the many legendary lords on this White Jade Staircase, the Darkstar Lord was definitely the most powerful. Even Lord Zhuo he was slightly inferior. The Darkstar Lord managed to be at the forefront of this White Jade Staircase, not only because he was the first to step up, but also because of his inherent strength. Do you also intend to block me? Lin Yuan looked at the Darkstar Lord and said calmly, Block you? The Darkstar Lord's heart trembled. He immediately forced a smile and said, How could I dare block someone with your strength, Galaxy Lord? Even when it comes to transcendence, where any legendary lord would fight with everything they have, it's only worth it if there's hope. Facing the Galaxy Lord with Lord Zhuo, he has a lesson. What could the Darkstar Lord use to obstruct him? Galaxy Lord, you go ahead. The Dark Star Lord immediately stepped aside. Lin Yuan glanced at the Dark Star Lord and continued his ascent of the White Jade Staircase. Chapter 1468, Unity. Chapter 1468, Unity. After surpassing the Dark Star Lord, Lin Yuan didn't slack off and continued climbing with full strength. Although he held an absolute lead on this White Jade Step, what about the other White Jade Steps? It should be known that the White Jade Steps formed by the Transcendence power this time total 33,333. The competition pressure on the White Jade Step where Lin Yuan wasn't big. Besides him, the strongest were legendary lords like Dark Star Lord, Lord Zhuohe, who had survived 2,005,000,000 to 600,000,000 calamities. On other White Jade Steps, the strongest might have power reaching the level of surviving 2,008,000,000 to 900,000,000 calamities, or even surpassing 3,000,000,000 calamities like Fantian Lord and Lord Haoshan. Although Lin Yuan's strength was terrifying, in climbing the White Jade Steps, strength was only one factor. Who knows what means these ancient legendary lords who had lived through endless ages and accumulated tremendous might have. These ancient legendary lords were trapped at their current realm for an unknown length of time. Once they slightly received guidance from the White Jade Steps in the direction of evolution for their own chaotic origin Dao, their climbing speed would definitely not be much weaker than Lin Yuan. Of course, Lin Yuan believed in his against heaven's understanding. Perhaps, in a short period, those ancient legendary lords could slightly surpass Lin Yuan with their own substantial accumulation. But as the timeline extends, no matter how immense the accumulation, it will eventually run out one day, while Lin Yuan's against heaven's understanding was inexhaustible. As he continued climbing, the White Jade Steps guided Lin Yuan's direction for cultivation, and countless inspirations and insights collided in his mind. Innate fifth Tai, Lin Yuan murmured, within the depths of his eyes, the forces of Tai, Tai Chu, Tai Shu intertwined, faintly resonating with Lin Yuan's chaotic origin Taiji Dao. The four forces of Tai harmoniously integrated with the chaotic origin Taiji Dao. Taiji is the fifth Tai in the innate five great. Lin Yuan's eyes shone brightly. To be precise, the fifth Tai of the innate five great can be nurtured from the chaotic origin Taiji Dao. I see, Lin Yuan mused thoughtfully. In the fourth origin world, watching the origin world during its nascent period, he comprehended the foundation of innate five great. Originally, Lin Yuan thought innate five great completely originated from that origin world. Now it seems the essence of innate five great lies within himself and the chaotic origin Taiji Dao he masters. The forces of Tai, Tai Chu, Tai Shu, Tai Shu, Tai Shi represent different stages, with Taiji symbolizing the final stage. And restoring the other four forces of Tai with Taiji power is entirely a matter of subtle influence. Even without the experiences of the fourth origin world, through comprehending the chaotic origin Taiji Dao and realizing its Taiji power, one day he will also grasp the other four forces of Tai. It's just a matter of a longer time. Next, the direction of cultivation is nurturing Tai's power from the chaotic origin Taiji Dao. Lin Yuan thinks quickly in his mind. The Tai power here is not the same as the Taiji power that Lin Yuan mastered before becoming a temporal life. The former emphasizes Tai, and is the power of Tai in the innate five great. If not for climbing the White Jade Steps, I don't know how long it would take to nurture Tai's power. Lin Yuan smiles. The White Jade Steps pointed out the direction of evolution for the chaotic origin Taiji Dao. The stronger the chaotic origin Taiji Dao becomes, the easier it is to nurture Tai's power, just as Lin Yuan continued climbing the White Jade Steps. In infinite dimensional dimensions, many legendary lords' eyes turned towards the White Jade Steps where Lin Yuan was. On the 33,333 White Jade Steps, battles between the legendary lords occur every moment. But involving legendary lords like Lord Zhuo, he who survived 2,500,000,000 calamities was rare, especially when Lord Zhuo he was effortlessly crushed by Lin Yuan. In a vast space-time, several figures sat cross-legged. These figures were Lord Haoshan, Fantian Lord, Lord Wanxiang, and other legendary lords who survived 3 billion calamities. In the current space-time of infinite dimensional dimensions, there are only a few such strong individuals, and they are all known to each other. This time, with the appearance of White Jade Steps, Lord Haoshan and several legendary lords sent an avatar to this place. At least for now, several legendary lords are far ahead on their respective White Jade Steps and don't have competitive relations momentarily. Haoshan, have you seen the battle scenes of the Galaxy Lord? Lord Wanxiang glanced at Lord Haoshan and asked. When Lin Yuan eliminated Lord Zhuohe, many legendary lords below witnessed it. Naturally, the related scenes spread. Not to mention, even Lord Zhuohe himself could spread scenes of his confrontation with the Galaxy Lord. I have. Lord Haoshan opened his eyes and nodded, saying, I'm not a match for that galaxy. As one of the renowned double heavens, having Lord Haoshan actively admit he's not a match is astonishing. You're not a match? Lord Wanxiang's expression changed. comparatively to the strength and methods currently shown by the Galaxy Lord and those displayed by Lord Hauatian. Lord Hauatian indeed wasn't a match, but as legendary lords they certainly have cards and backup plans never revealed. Even if the Galaxy Lord has unrevealed cards, shouldn't Lord Hauatian not so easily admit defeat? An outsider's opinion that Lord Hauatian wasn't a match for the Galaxy Lord differs from Lord Hauatian himself considering not being a match. Chapter 1461, Chapter 8, Unity Part 2. Chapter 1461, Chapter 8, Unity Part 2. They are completely different matters. The latter means that even if I account for all my trump cards and hidden moves, I still can't match the strength that the Galaxy Lord displays openly. The power that the Galaxy Lord wields is simply monstrous. At this moment, the Fantian Lord sitting beside spoke, a tone of amazement in his voice. The higher the realm, the stronger one becomes, the more one can sense the terrifying power Lin Yuan holds, intertwining the four Tai's powers, Tai, Taishu, Taishi, and Taishu, able to sweep through all in the infinite dimensional realms. Lord Wansheng listened quietly. Though the Fantian Lord didn't say it explicitly, the implication was also that he considered himself no match for that Galaxy Lord. A new path of transcendence has appeared, indeed giving birth to many unimaginable variables. The fourth legendary lord spoke, in the past, for lords of their legendary level, which among them was not illustrious, intimidating the many time spaces of past, present, and future. Let alone birthing one of the same level, even someone just nearing their strength, they would definitely know, unlike now, the Galaxy Lord had already surpassed them, yet this was the first time hearing of him. Indeed, it's a variable. Lord Wansheng nodded, then looked at the other legendary lords, his tone slightly solemn. With the strength of the Galaxy Lord, if any of us meet him alone, none can withstand it. Once these words were out, all the legendary lords present fell silent. It was true, perhaps they wouldn't be crushed like Lord Zhuohe, unable to endure even a single breath. But defeat and doom were inevitable. We have known each other for many years, Lord Wansheng continued. If in the future, on this new path of transcendence, we find ourselves opposing the Galaxy Lord, I hope we can join forces to eliminate the Galaxy Lord first as much as possible. Join forces? Lord Hauatian and the Fantian Lord pondered thoughtfully. If it were other times, with their pride, they would definitely disdain to join forces to bully one with many. But this is on the path to transcendence, involving the hope of transcendence. Transcending is the ultimate goal. It's only natural for the weaker side to join forces to oppose the stronger party. If not, being individually picked off by the Galaxy Lord would basically forfeit their chance to transcend. Only by joining forces and first dealing with the Galaxy Lord could they hope to transcend. As for the struggle among themselves after dealing with the Galaxy Lord, at least there existed a chance of victory, unlike facing the Galaxy Lord where there was no hope. No problem. No problem. Lord Hauatian and the Fantian Lord nodded successively on another alabaster staircase. The sage's eyes burned with passion. I have experienced countless ages, born soon after the opening of the infinite dimensional realms, although the tribulations I have undergone are not as many as Hauatian, Fantian, but in terms of accumulated foundation, I am undoubtedly the strongest. The sage's heart was full of excitement before the alabaster staircase appeared, no matter how much foundation was accumulated. It wasn't of much use, because there was no evolution direction for the self's chaotic origin Dao. The use of accumulated foundation simply couldn't be brought out. But now, with the continuous climb of the alabaster staircase, the sage's accumulation was rapidly stimulated, feeling his strength surging swiftly. This new path of transcendence is so befitting for me, perhaps my chance for transcendence lies here? The sage composed himself and continued the ascent. Who? Climbing the alabaster staircase, Lin Yuan continuously attempted to use the chaotic origin Taiji Dao to nurture the Tai's power. Strands of strange power continuously emerged, intertwining and merging with the other four Tai's powers. As more and more Tai's power was nurtured, the quantitative change triggered a qualitative change, finally forming a complete Tai's power, on par with the Taiyi, Taishu, Taishi, and Taishu 4 Tai powers. Innate 5 Great Lin Yuan let out a gentle breath, a smile appearing on his face. The complete weaving of the 5 Tai powers began to greatly nourish Lin Yuan's physical body and soul. At this moment, numerous true bodies and incarnations of the primordial spirit were growing explosively at a terrifying speed. Compared to the 4 types of Tai powers in operation before, the gathering of the 5 types of Tai powers is a qualitative change, a completion, and to some extent, a form of perfection. My current strength is far more powerful than before. Lin Yuan shook his head slightly. At this moment, his strength definitely surpasses the legendary lord of 300 million tribulations. Perhaps reaching 320 million times? 320,900,000 times? The infinite tribulations path of transcendence has a third stage, which includes 330 million tribulations. The last 3,000 tribulations are the most challenging, and once surpassed, the strength increase is even greater. Now, Lin Yuan feels that his strength may be close to the level of 33,000 tribulations, which is the endpoint of the infinite tribulations path of transcendence. But I feel that I am still far from transforming and transcending the supreme rule Dao. Is the endpoint of the infinite tribulations path of transcendence not true transcendence? Thoughts surfaced in Lin Yuan's mind but were quickly suppressed as he began to devote himself to climbing the white jade steps. Whether or not infinite tribulations lead to transcendence is not important. His most crucial task now is to ascend the white jade steps. The innate five great divides as Tai, Tai-Chu, Tai-Shu, Tai-Shu, Tai-Shu. Among them, Tai-Ji is nurtured by one's own chaotic origin Tai-Ji Dao. Therefore, the other four types of Tai's powers should also need to evolve into corresponding chaotic origin Dao. Lin Yuan climbed the white jade steps step by step, and the direction towards the supreme rule Dao gradually became clear, allowing him to quickly understand his subsequent tasks. Using the foundation of Tai power, Tai Chu power, Tai Shi power, and Tai Yu power to evolve the chaotic origin Tai Dao, chaotic origin Tai Chu Dao, chaotic origin Tai Shi Dao, and chaotic origin Tai Shu Dao, within a certain spacetime, Lin Yuan was chatting with the Purple Light Legendary Lord and other Legendary Lords. His climbing of the white jade steps occupies the majority of Lin Yuan's energy and mind, but every once in a while, he still probes external information. It's considered a relaxation aside from climbing the white jade steps. Galaxy, that Lord Zhuo, he couldn't even last half a breath against you. How strong is your current power? The Purple Light Legendary Lord exclaimed. Even if his insight wasn't as sharp as Darkstar Lord, the Purple Light Legendary Lord still vaguely realized that at this moment, even Lord Haoshan and the others were probably not Lin Yuan's match. Lin Yuan listened with a smile, sometimes casually replying with a sentence. By the way, Galaxy, you should still be careful. Lord Haoshan and Lord Fantian are definitely paying attention to you, and there might be a possible alliance afterward, the Purple Light Legendary Lord said. Regarding Lin Yuan, he could only feel respected, as their strength gap was too vast, leaving no competitive relationship. Hence, the reminder to Lin Yuan was genuine. The 300 million tribulations legendary lords, Lord Haoshan, Lord Fantian, and others, have known each other for a long time. If it truly came to the point of contention with Lin Yuan, chances are high they would join forces to deal with Lin Yuan first. After all, Lin Yuan's strength and means were unknown, posing the greatest threat. Understood. Lin Yuan nodded. If it were before nurturing the Tai power, he might have been wary of the legendary lords, Lord Haoshan, Lord Fantian, and others. Solely relying on the innate four great powers might allow him to suppress a legendary lord of 300 million tribulations, but against their alliance, Lin Yuan wouldn't be so confident. But now? With the nurturing of the innate fifth Tai power, Lin Yuan's strength underwent a qualitative change, feeling capable of challenging a legendary lord above 320 million tribulations. In a sense, after completing the innate five great, Lin Yuan no longer took the current spacetime's legendary lord seriously. On the endless white jade stairs, Lin Yuan's figure was solitary, continuously climbing. Oh? At this moment, Lin Yuan stopped his steps, looked up towards the highest point the white jade steps led to. He had climbed to an extremely high position, looking around. Space-time was blurry, and no other climbers could be seen. At this height, Lin Yuan took a close look and vaguely saw 33,332 other white jade steps. If one continues to look upwards, they would vaguely discover that as the altitude increases, all the white jade steps are converging. Ultimately, they converge into a single white jade step. 33,333 white jade steps would eventually merge into one white jade step, Lin Yuan observed from afar. Chapter 1462-9, Growing Ever More Distant. Chapter 1462-9, Growing Ever More Distant. It turns out all the white jade steps converge into one. Lin Yuan's expression was dazed, both unexpected and reasonable. If the white jade steps represent the path of transcendence, then could it be that 33,333 white jade steps represent 33,333 opportunities for transcendence? How is that possible? Since the opening of the endless dimensional realms, transcendence has been the ultimate pursuit of all Time Lords, and it has never been heard of that any Lord could transcend. Even if the white jade steps really are a path to transcendence, then finally those who might transcend would be extremely few, definitely not as many as 33,333. This is not only Lin Yuan's speculation. Other legendary lords think this way too, only they are unsure through what form a transcendent might be born. Continue. Lin Yuan gathered his thoughts and began climbing again. Currently, he is still on one of the white jade steps, with a long distance yet to cover before reaching the single white jade step that converges from all the white jade steps, visible only from this angle. Climbing the white jade steps requires one step at a time. Teleportation is impossible. Rumbling, every step forward, an overwhelming force of compression and distortion swept towards Lin Yuan. At the current height Lin Yuan had reached, the compressive and distorting force had grown beyond imagination, and ordinary legendary lords who had undergone a billion tribulations could not endure for long. However, for Lin Yuan, who had established the complete innate five greats, his power had just achieved transformation, and these forces of compression and distortion felt like a gentle breeze, not intimidating in the least. Chaotic origin Taiji Dao. Every step Lin Yuan took, his mind erupted with countless flashes of insight. He comprehended the chaotic origin Taiji Dao after spending over tens of thousands of years. Now, starting anew to comprehend the chaotic origin Taiji Dao, naturally, it would take far less time. Under the advantage of high vantage, the progress speed of the chaotic origin Taiji Dao was extremely fast, and coupled with the guidance of the White Jade Steps, it could be described as advancing by leaps and bounds. Arrived. Several months later, Lin Yuan paused his steps again, looking towards the White Jade Step formed by the convergence of 33,333 other steps. Compared to the previous 33,333 White Jade Steps, this singular converged White Jade Step appeared more real, with engravings on it that were more mysterious and profound. I should be leading far ahead of the other legendary lords now. Lin Yuan looked down, mist floating around, and even at the far end of sight, he saw no legendary lords. The current strongest legendary lords in time and space, Lord Haoshan, Fantian Lord, and other legendary lords who had undergone 3 billion tribulations while climbing the White Jade Steps, were not only unable to catch up with Lin Yuan, but at this moment did not even qualify to look up to Lin Yuan. Originally, with all White Jade Steps merging into one, there should have been a fierce battle to fight for the foremost position on this singular White Jade Step, Lin Yuan thought to himself. As for Fantian Lord, Haoshan Lord, and other legendary lords, their accumulated power is not too far apart, and their speed in climbing the White Jade Steps would not differ much. Ultimately, they would likely arrive near this step at roughly the same time. By then, a conflict would surely occur. Originally, 33,333 White Jade Steps stood separately, and each legendary lord did not exist in competition. Now there's only one White Jade Step, surely breaking the original situation. Given Lin Yuan's leading height, by the time Haoshan Lord and Fantian Lord arrive here, he doesn't know where he would have climbed to. Competition? Haoshan Lord, Fantian Lord, and other legendary lords don't even meet the threshold to compete with Lin Yuan. Of course, this is also a good thing for Haoshan Lord and Fantian Lord. After establishing the complete innate five greats, Lin Yuan's strength had pulled far away from theirs. If they really had to compete, even if the latter joined forces, they would be thoroughly defeated. By then, let alone climbing the unified White Jade Step, they might have to start all over again. The difficulty of climbing the unified White Jade Step might soar. Lin Yuan observed the White Jade Step before him, pondering silently. It's obvious that the White Jade Step transcendence path consists of two stages. The first is the initial stage of the 33,333 White Jade Steps. The second is the stage converged into a single White Jade Step before his eyes. The difficulty in climbing might greatly differ with each stage. Perhaps the first stage of White Jade Steps carries no danger, but the second stage of White Jade Steps is different. So far, the climbing of 33,333 White Jade Steps has posed no threat to the legendary lords. The greatest danger still comes from fellow climbers, other legendary lords. Give it a try. Lin Yuan paused briefly, then stepped onto the unified White Jade Step before him. Having climbed to this point, Lin Yuan naturally could not give up halfway. Which transcendence path isn't dangerous? Relatively speaking, the endless White Jade Steps are already quite favorable. Boom. At the moment Lin Yuan stepped onto the step, he immediately felt a difference. Apart from the greatly enhanced oppressive and twisting force, Lin Yuan also noticed he was beginning to fall into deep illusions, extremely realistic illusions, overwhelming and pervasive. These illusions? Even I was somewhat affected. Lin Yuan was slightly surprised. Under the operation of innate five greats, he achieved comprehensive enhancement, including mind and will. How terrifying must the illusions be to affect Lin Yuan? Chapter 1463, 9, Growing Further Apart. Part 2, Chapter 1463, 9, Growing Further Apart. Part 2. But it's only an influence, nothing much. Lin Yuan did not care much. The complete innate five great constantly nurtured his mind and willpower. Moreover, comprehending the other four chaotic origin Daos would simultaneously enhance his mind and willpower. At least for now, the multiple illusions he was enduring didn't significantly affect Lin Yuan. Although the difficulty of ascending increased, the guiding effect also surged greatly. A smile appeared on Lin Yuan's face. Just by stepping onto the first step of the White Jade Step after fusion, he vaguely sensed the imminent comprehension of the chaotic origin Taiji Dao. By then, possessing the chaotic origin Daos represented by two of the innate five great, Lin Yuan's strength would skyrocket further. The challenge of ascending the White Jade Steps was nothing compared to the rapid growth of Lin Yuan's power. Several months. Lin Yuan finally comprehended the direction indicated by the current step. For the first phase of the White Jade Steps, I need only a few dozen breaths, at most a few hundred, to climb to the next step. But for the second phase after fusion, I actually need several months for comprehension? Lin Yuan gently shook his head. However, the improvement in guiding his chaotic origin Dao was significant enough. With this thought, Lin Yuan unhesitatingly chose to step onto the next step. Boom, overwhelming compressive and twisting powers, accompanied by numerous illusions, surged forth. Time slowly passed. Fantian Lord paused for a long time before finally stepping onto the next step. My chaotic origin Dao. Fantian Lord felt his own chaotic origin Dao begin to transform slightly once more, and a smile appeared on his face. Although the transformation was minor, as long as it could continue transforming, his chaotic origin Dao would eventually transform into the supreme rule Dao. Can these white jade steps truly be ascended indefinitely? Fantian Lord collected his thoughts and instinctively looked upward at the endless steps. This was his habit, always glancing upward whenever he stepped onto the next step. What is that? Fantian Lord's expression grew solemn. 33,333 white jade steps drawing together. From Fantian Lord's height, he couldn't see the fused white jade step, but he could notice the trend of all the white jade steps converging. Could it be? Numerous speculations emerged in Fantian Lord's mind. Time continued to pass. Fantian Lord climbed more than enough white jade steps once again, as I thought. 33,333 white jade steps finally converge into one white jade step. Fantian Lord's gaze was fixed. This revelation made him realize he could no longer continue climbing so leisurely. Not long after, Fantian Lord vaguely saw that fused white jade step, Lord Haotian, Lord Wansheng, and other most powerful legendary lords also made the same discovery. All white jade steps converging? Indeed, that makes sense. Otherwise, 33,333 white jade steps, could they all transcend simultaneously? Lord Haotian, Lord Wansheng, and the other legendary lords pondered, though they realized a fierce battle was imminent for the chance to be the first to step on the fused white jade step. But their hearts felt much more at ease. If the white jade steps continued endlessly and unimpededly allowed their chaotic origin Daos to keep transforming, only then would the legendary lords feel uneasy. The higher the realm, the stronger the power, the more they could comprehend a certain essence of the endless dimensional realm. That is, any gain comes with risks. Such is the case with infinite origins, infinite tribulations, and perfect time beings. The new path of transcendence, the endless white jade steps, should logically be the same, a mystical time space. Fantian Lord, Lord Haotian, and two other legendary lords gathered in their incarnations. If all the white jade steps converge, who will be the first to step onto the fused white jade step? Their acquaintances made the atmosphere subtly oppressive among the legendary lords, including Lord Haotian and Fantian Lord. Everyone knew that taking the lead step by step was crucial. At this moment, whoever stepped onto the fused white jade step first would likely maintain their lead. Then, if there ever was a possibility of birthing a transcendent, it would definitely be this leader. Currently, I am the closest to the fused white jade step. I should be the first to step onto it. Fantian Lord spoke up. Being closest doesn't mean stepping on first, Lord Haotian said calmly. The closer to the fused white jade step, the nearer the distances between each white jade step become. And the nearer they are, the more likely they are to interfere with each other. Fantian Lord, being the closest to the fused white jade step, was bound to be hindered by other legendary lords. Then, let's see your strength. Fantian Lord's gaze was sharp, having long been prepared to battle Lord Haotian and Lord Wansheng. Rumble. Time and space stirred in waves before the fused white jade step. While climbing the white jade steps, Lord Haotian, Lord Wansheng, and other legendary lords also clashed, trying to hinder each other. I will definitely be the first to step onto the fused white jade step. Fantian Lord took a step forward, only to be pushed back by the combined efforts of the other three legendary lords. You all? Fantian Lord raged, his terrifying aura shaking time and space. If this place weren't the sturdy white jade steps, just the commotion from Fantian Lord's attack would have been enough to stir waves of destructive tides in the endless dimensional realm. Many dimensional spaces and dimension heaven and earth would face early great destruction because of this. Rustle, on a certain white jade step. Chapter 1464, 9, Growing Further Apart, Part 3. Chapter 1464, 9, Growing Further Apart, Part 3. A figure suddenly dashed out. The aura was as powerful as that of Fantian Lord, Lord Haotian, and other legendary lords. This suddenly appeared figure had clearly been lurking for some time, seizing the opportunity during the battle among Fantian Lord and the other four lords, hoping to be the first to step onto the unified white jade steps and gain the advantage. 9 dragons, come back to me. Lord Wansheng raised his hand, compressing layers of space-time, forcibly pulling back the figure that was about to step onto the unified white jade steps. Good technique. The Lord of 9 Dragons turned back. He had concealed his strength and aura, attempting to strike at the crucial moment, yet still failed. 9 dragons, when did you pass the 3rd billionth trial? Fantian Lord looked towards the Lord of 9 Dragons and asked, That's not something you need to know. The Lord of 9 Dragons chuckled. Then, the battle continued to escalate, besides the Lord of 9 Dragons. 2 more legendary lords who had passed the 3rd billionth trial appeared. However, compared to the Galaxy Lord who appeared out of nowhere, the Lord of Nine Dragons and the other two legendary lords were already renowned for a long time. Even if they hadn't erupted with power comparable to Heoshan and Fantian, they had previously been close to that level. Buzz, buzz, buzz. 7 or 8 terrifying auras clashed in front of the unified white jade steps. Finally, ha 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 ha. The sage exuded an overwhelming aura, forcibly breaking through the blockade of other legendary lords, ultimately stepping onto the unified white jade steps. Sage? Lord Haoshan looked at the ancient figure standing on the unified white jade steps. For the sage, this ancient legendary lord, he actually held little regard. Born shortly after the opening of the Endless Dimension and surviving till now, could his exploration of the path of transcendence compare to his own? However, through that recent battle, Lord Haoshan realized that the sage's strength was no weaker than his own. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for him to forcibly ascend the unified white jade steps amidst the fierce battle of legendary lords at their level. We underestimated you. Fantian Lord also looked at the sage. One by one, the legendary lords ceased their combat. Thank you for letting me win. A smile appeared on the sage's face. In terms of raw strength, he was inferior to Fantian and Lord Haoshan. On this white jade step, all the sage's accumulated potential was fully unleashed, causing his strength to surge dramatically, reaching the level of Fantian and Haoshan. In addition, with his long years of experience, he had created many secret techniques, which enabled him to reach the end of this struggle. Transcendence, I will ultimately transcend. Standing on the unified white jade steps, the sage had boundless ambition. His gaze swept over Fantian Lord, Lord Haoshan, Lord Wanxiang, and other legendary lords. I have already stepped over all the most powerful legendary lords. If I do not transcend, who can? The sage, lost in thought, looked at the legendary lords below, suddenly sensing something amiss. Fantian Lord, Lord Haoshan, Lord Wanxiang, plus the 3 lords who silently passed the 3rd billionth trial, a total of 7 legendary lords, all were below. But where was the Galaxy Lord? Regarding the battle where the Galaxy Lord broke through Lord Zhuohe, the sage also witnessed. Fully aware that he was no match for the Galaxy Lord, before the contention for the unified white jade steps, the sage had been on guard, wary of the Galaxy Lord lurking in the shadows. Yet from start to finish, the Galaxy Lord never appeared. If, at the beginning, the Galaxy Lord was hiding for a sudden burst to step onto the unified white jade steps, now that he himself had ascended the steps, why hadn't the Galaxy Lord made a move? Galaxy Lord? The sage's gaze swept across each white jade step, ultimately finding nothing, failing to spot any trace of the Galaxy Lord. Instinctively, the sage's gaze turned upwards to the top of the unified white jade steps. Endless steps of white jade extended seemingly towards the eternal pinnacle. At the edge of his sight, on steps unknown in number from the position where the sage stood, the sage finally noticed a figure gradually ascending, its back towards him. Due to the vast distance, this figure appeared somewhat indistinct. But the sage instantly recognized this figure as the Galaxy Lord. What? The sage's mind went blank, his heart quivering. Chapter 1465:10. Am I the greatest calamity for the legendary lords? Chapter 1465:10. Am I the greatest calamity for the legendary lords? Wise one, what have you discovered? Fantian Lord sharply sensed the Wise One's change before and after, immediately asking. From his angle, looking up, even to the end of his line of sight, he couldn't see Lin Yuan's silhouette. Other legendary lords who underwent 300 million tribulations also looked towards the Wise One. As the first legendary lord to step onto the unified white jade steps, surely he felt something unusual. It turns out, the first one we competed to step onto the white jade steps has long since left. The Wise One chuckled softly, self-mockingly. With the Wise One's mindset, if he was only slightly ahead, he would never feel such a sense of utter despair. Were other legendary lords slightly ahead of him? Or did he never win against competing with Lord Haoshan and Fantian Lord, among other legendary lords? It would only stir greater motivation in the Wise One. But Lin Yuan, at this moment, the Wise One, though on the unified white jade steps, was separated from Lin Yuan by countless white jade steps, a gap as vast as a chasm. No matter how great the motivation or competitiveness, it would be thoroughly worn away in the face of such disparity. Long since left? Wise One, what do you mean? Yes, could it be that someone climbed the unified white jade steps before you? Lord Wanxiang, Lord Haoshan, and other legendary lords, with their quick minds, immediately deduced most of the truth from the Wise One's words. Only this truth was hard for all legendary lords to believe. Wasn't the Wise One the first to ascend the unified white jade steps? Then who was it? From their position, they could already see a long stretch of the unified white jade steps. They hadn't seen any other climbers. Did you not sense that there's another presence who hasn't appeared until now? The Wise One sighed internally, then spoke. Are you referring to the galaxy? Lord Wanxiang's expression shifted slightly. Not only had the Wise One guarded against the galaxy, but Lord Wanxiang and others were also wary of the Galaxy Lord. After all, in the small circle of Lord Wanxiang, Lord Haoshan, Fantian Lord, and other 4 legendary lords, there was a notion of jointly opposing the Galaxy Lord. But even until the Wise One ascended the unified white jade steps, the Galaxy Lord hadn't appeared. Yes, the Galaxy Lord, he ascended long ago. The Wise One spoke. There was no need to conceal this fact. Ascended long ago? What kind of means does the Galaxy Lord possess? Lord Haoshan, Fantian Lord, and other legendary lords were silent for a moment, their expressions reflecting astonishment. They did not doubt the Wise One, because only this explanation made sense. Otherwise, given the Galaxy Lord's strength surpassing Lord Haoshan and Fantian Lord, why hadn't he appeared in front of the unified white jade steps until now? It could only be explained by his having already crossed them. It seems the Galaxy Lord hid his strength when he acted against Lord Zhuohe. Indeed. Wise One, why can't I see how high the Galaxy Lord has climbed? Yes, I can't see either. Could it be that only by stepping onto the unified white jade steps can one see the scene on the steps after unification? Lord Haoshan and 7 other legendary lords felt somewhat puzzled, speculating it might be a limitation of the steps' rules, that not stepping onto the unified steps restricts one's view of the scene on the steps after unification. You can't see, it's normal, the Wise One glanced at each legendary lord and said in a mysterious tone, the Galaxy Lord is currently at a very high position, so high that even I see it very faintly. Lin Yuan continued climbing the white jade steps, casually glancing downward. He saw the struggle among Lord Haoshan and 8 other legendary lords over who would be the first to step onto the unified white jade steps. Reached there just now? Lin Yuan shook his head slightly. At this moment, it had been over 10,000 years since he first stepped onto the unified white jade steps. Lin Yuan merely cast a glance and then paid no more attention. After all, the gap between him and the legendary lords like Lord Haoshan was really too large now. There was no need to look more. The difficulty of climbing the white jade steps after unification, Lin Yuan's thoughts fluctuated, a smile appearing on his face. Although the climbing difficulty increased greatly, the effect was very significant. After more than 10,000 years of climbing, Lin Yuan already comprehended the chaotic origin Taiji Dao, chaotic origin Taiju Dao, and chaotic origin Taishi Dao from the innate 5 great, plus his original chaotic origin Taiji Dao. He was only short of the chaotic origin Taisu Dao to theoretically match the 5 types of chaotic origin Dao that correspond to the innate 5 great. Once all 5 types of chaotic origin Dao are comprehended, it will be a qualitative metamorphosis for me, akin to the great leap from non-temporal life to temporal life. Lin Yuan felt a sense of insight. But why do I feel that even if I comprehend the chaotic origin Taisu Dao, the innate 5 great completed by the 5 types of chaotic origin Dao would still be far from reaching the supreme rule Dao level? Lin Yuan was slightly puzzled. The higher the realm and the stronger the power, the more clearly one perceives the distance from transcending levels as being unfathomable. Take it slow. First comprehend the chaotic origin Taisu Dao. Lin Yuan restrained his thoughts, climbing the white jade steps with the path to transcendence clearly visible. Lin Yuan only needed to continue walking down this path. After unification, the white jade steps. After the Wise One, Lord Haoshan, Fantian Lord, and other legendary lords also successively distinguished themselves, stepping into the second stage of the white jade steps. Even with the Galaxy Lord far ahead, Lord Haoshan and other legendary lords still held great expectations for climbing the white jade steps. Chapter 1466-10, Am I the Greatest Calamity for the Legendary Lords? Part 2. Chapter 11466-10, Am I the Greatest Calamity for the Legendary Lords? Part 2. Even if Lin Yuan is leading, what does it matter? At most, he can only seize one spot for transcendence. No one knows how many transcendent beings can be born from the endless white jade steps on this path of transcendence. What if it's 2 or 3? Then even if Lin Yuan is ahead, they still have a chance. Even if we take a step back 1,000,000 times, this path of transcendence can only birth one transcendent being. Continuing to climb and perfect their own chaotic origin Dao will not be a loss. Bear in mind, the more perfect the chaotic origin Dao, the greater the enhancement in their power. Wise ones can rapidly increase their strength, reaching the level of Lord Haoshan and Fantian Lord just by climbing the white jade steps. Similarly, before reaching the unified white jade steps, the strength of legendary lords such as Lord Haoshan and Fantian Lord also grows, although not as obviously as that of wise ones. Even so, the extent of improvement is roughly equivalent to overcoming 1 or 200 calamities. 1 or 200 calamities? At the level of Lord Haoshan and Fantian Lord, passing even 1 calamity requires facing extreme life and death crises, let alone 1 or 200. Furthermore, the stronger one becomes, the more assured they are of overcoming future calamities. Throughout the tens of billions of calamities, the majority depends on strength, such terrifying pressure. And hallucinations, I must devote at least 60% of my energy to resist their influence. Legendary lords like Lord Haoshan and Fantian Lord stand on the unified white jade steps, their expressions wavering. Compared to the previous jade steps, they now face pressure beyond measure. I feel that to step onto the next step, at least 10,000 years of adaptation are needed, perhaps even 100,000 years. Lord Wansheng silently pondered. Now, standing on the first step after unification, the pressure he felt is immense. It's predictable that the pressure of the next step will only be greater. You said you could see the Galaxy Lord, Wise One? Where is the Galaxy Lord now? Lord Haoshan couldn't help but inquire. At this moment, they stood with the Wise Ones on the same layer of steps, looking upwards into ethereal clouds but seeing no presence. Before you stepped up, the Galaxy Lord had already proceeded to the next step, not visible from here, the Wise One stated honestly. In fact, upon stepping onto the unified white jade steps, they realized that stepping first was not very significant. They were destined to be trapped on the first step for a long time. The Galaxy Lord, how strong is he truly? Fantian Lord pondered for a moment, his tone revealing amazement, standing on the first step, feeling its terrifying pressure. They increasingly realized just how frightening the Galaxy Lord, now beyond their sight, truly is. The end of sight on the unified white jade steps, compared to the 3333 steps before, is not of the same concept. Anyway, we are certainly far inferior. Lord Wansheng said, perhaps only those who truly reach the end of a transcendence path can be on the same level as the Galaxy Lord? Those who've reached the end of a transcendence path? In terms of the infinite calamity path, it's the terrifying lords who've passed the last stage of 32,000 calamities. Whereas legendary lords like Lord Wansheng and Lord Haoshan have surpassed 3 billion calamities at most, only nearing the end of a transcendence path. I didn't expect our space-time to have such beings. The Lord of Nine Dragons couldn't help but speak. Since the creation of infinite dimensions, many powerful and terrifying legendary lords have been born. For instance, when the Wise One first became a lord, Lord Wu Yu overlooked the infinite dimensions. Yet these powerful and terrifying legendary lords mostly perished along some transcendence path, whether impacting the perfect time being, dying during some infinite calamity, or quietly disappearing in some ancient forbidden space-time. Lin Yuan stood on a certain white jade step, contemplating for a long time. I see, the next moment. Lin Yuan stepped forward, landing on the next step. At this moment, Humminga. A strange and inexplicable fluctuation began to spread. Lin Yuan opened his eyes and looked downward. He saw a segment of the white jade step behind him silently dissolving. Starting from this segment, both above and below slowly dissolved. From a great distance, one would see an endlessly stretching white jade step breaking in the middle, with the break gradually widening and spreading in both directions. This? Lin Yuan's expression turned slightly grave. He didn't feel pressured by this. The current dissolving speed of the white jade steps couldn't match his climbing speed. As long as he kept ascending, there would be no issues. However, for the Time Lords below the broken steps, it was akin to the path of transcendence being cut off, unable to continue climbing, even forced to retreat as dissolution spread. Does the white jade step dissolve because it's time, or only when I step onto this position? Lin Yuan steadied himself, stopped thinking about it, and continued climbing. Even though the dissolving white jade steps do not threaten him now, every situation must be considered with the worst-case scenario. What if the dissolving speed of the later steps accelerates? Or a section above him starts dissolving? Therefore, climbing at the fastest speed ensures the greatest benefits. Lin Yuan noticed the change in the white jade steps, and similarly, many legendary lords below noticed it as well. Dissolve, a segment of white jade steps above begins to dissolve. Doesn't this mean the path of transcendence is severed? Countless legendary lords displayed unwilling expressions, barely grasping the path of transcendence. Even if they couldn't transcend in the end, they could greatly perfect their own chaotic origin Dao. Who would have thought so soon this path of transcendence would begin to dissolve? It's a segment of the white jade steps beneath the Galaxy Lord that's dissolving. The Wise One observed from afar, easily confirming that before and after the dissolution of that segment, the Galaxy Lord's presence was nowhere to be seen. It seems that only the Galaxy Lord has a chance to transcend on this path. Fantian Lord sighed. Even though he'd been prepared for this, when faced with reality, he still felt a tinge of regret. Rumble? The change in the white jade steps was like a stone thrown into water, causing heavy ripples. The Supreme Rule Dao aura descended spectacularly, yet blocked by the endless white jade steps, instantly spreading across every corner of the infinite dimensions. This penetration was not limited to the current space-time. The past and future of infinite dimensions were all imbued with the Supreme Rule Dao aura. Simultaneously, the legendary lords, with hearts flooded by some disappointment, like Fantian Lord and Lord Haoshan, suddenly received an ancient and mysterious message in their minds. Stop Galaxy from continuing to climb the white jade steps, succeed, and you'll be counted as having passed 1,000 calamities. Fail with no penalty. Fantian Lord, Lord Haoshan, and the other legendary lords' pupils shrank abruptly. Expressions revealed disbelief. Stopping Galaxy from continuing his ascent would be counted as passing 1,000 calamities? Even if they failed, no penalty would follow? Is this a tribulation personally decreed by the Supreme Rule Dao, Chaos Void? Lin Yuan closed his eyes, focusing most of his attention on climbing the white jade steps. Suddenly, The purple light legendary lord sent a message. Galaxy, something is terribly wrong. What is it? Lin Yuan opened his eyes. Just now, the Supreme Rule Dao imposed the same tribulation on all legendary lords who've passed billions of calamities, which is to stop you from continuing to ascend the White Jade steps. If successful, it'll be counted as normally passing 1,000 calamities. Even if failed, there'll be no punishment, no erasure by the Supreme Rule Dao. The purple light legendary lord sounded somewhat anxious. The Supreme Rule Dao has set me as the tribulation target for legendary lords? Lin Yuan's expression changed slightly. Chapter 1467, 11, Legendary Lords from Different Space. Times Chapter 1467, 11, Legendary Lords from Different Space. Times is the will of the Supreme Rule Dao, not wishing for me to continue climbing the White Jade Stairs? Lin Yuan gazed deeply, looking towards the infinite dimensions. Normally, the calamities involved in the infinite tribulations are different for each lord. But now, for all the legendary lords above the billion tribulations, the will of the Supreme Rule Dao has imposed the same calamity, to stop Lin Yuan from continuing to ascend the White Jade Stairs. The intention is too obvious, and according to the meaning of the Purple Light Legendary Lord, any legendary lord above 1,000,000,000 tribulations, as long as they successfully stop Lin Yuan from climbing the White Jade Stairs, it would be equivalent to directly overcoming 1,000 tribulations up to tens of millions of tribulations. A legendary lord near 3 billion tribulations, successfully stopping Lin Yuan, would be akin to overcoming subsequent 1,000 tribulations, while a legendary lord just above 1 billion tribulations, successfully stopping Lin Yuan, would be equivalent to overcoming subsequent tens of millions of tribulations. One must understand, in the infinite tribulations, the calamities are linked to strength, and the more tribulations one overcomes, the more they are rewarded by the infinite dimensions with a boost in strength. The key is, even if they fail to stop Lin Yuan and fail the tribulation, they won't be erased by the will of the Supreme Rule Dao. To be honest, if the target of this calamity weren't himself, Lin Yuan might have been a bit tempted. Galaxy, you must be careful. The Purple Light Legendary Lord transmitted its thoughts. It had little interest in the calamity imposed by the Supreme Rule Dao. Firstly, the calamity to stop the galaxy from ascending the White Jade Stairs has a threshold for legendary lords above 1 billion tribulations. The Purple Light Legendary Lord hasn't reached this threshold yet, and it got this information from other legendary lords of 1 billion tribulations. Secondly, on the path of transcending infinite tribulations, any required tribulation is extremely fair. Simply put, there's no such thing as easily overcoming a tribulation for a legendary lord undergoing tribulation. Want to gain benefits from the infinite dimensions? To advance further in strength, it's not that easy, and this time, the will of the Supreme Rule Dao imposes the same tribulation on all legendary lords above the 1 billion tribulations for 1,000 or even 10,000-fold reward. Even failure incurs no punishment. How could it possibly be as simple as it seems on the surface? This kind of favors from the Supreme Rule Dao indicates that the difficulty of the tribulation is beyond all legendary lords' imagination. Not to mention, the Purple Light Legendary Lord hasn't reached this threshold yet. Even if it did, it probably wouldn't consider it, let alone its acquaintance with Lin Yuan. Don't worry. Lin Yuan wasn't much concerned. Prevent him from continuing up the White Jade Stairs? How to prevent it? His current altitude on the White Jade Stairs far surpasses all the legendary lords. Moreover, with the White Jade Stairs broken in the middle, whether those legendary lords can even stay on the stairs is another matter. Even if the Supreme Rule Dao engages in some unbelievable means, moving all legendary lords to his front. With Lin Yuan's current strength, lords like Haoshan and Fantian at 3 billion tribulations wouldn't last a moment before him. All the legendary lords of this era with billion tribulations joined together, Lin Yuan was confident he could easily shatter them. After creating a complete innate 5 great, Lin Yuan's strength thoroughly surpassed lords like Haoshan and Fantian. Now he has further evolved 3 more chaotic origin Dao based on the innate 5 great. The will of the Supreme Rule Dao, Lin Yuan, though not worried, wouldn't underestimate it. For the Supreme Rule Dao to dare impose the calamity to stop his ascent of the White Jade Stairs, it must mean there's some hope. Stopping the Galaxy Lord from climbing the White Jade Stairs? What a joke. Has the Supreme Rule Dao gone mad? Lords like Haoshan and Fantian, at 3 billion tribulations, shook their heads immediately after the initial shock. Perhaps legendary lords at 1 billion or 2 billion tribulations might be tempted by the calamity imposed by the will of the Supreme Rule Dao. But they are different. As the first legendary lords to step on the unified White Jade Stairs, lords like Haoshan know too well the terror of the Galaxy Lord. The stronger the power, the higher the realm, the longer one climbs the post-unified White Jade Stairs. The more they feel the terror of the Galaxy Lord's power, likely ranking in the top 5 or even top 3 among all legendary lords since the inception of infinite dimensions. Moreover, how are they supposed to stop him now? The Galaxy Lord stands towering on an unknowably high step of the White Jade Stairs. They can't even get close. As for dealing with the Galaxy Lord's other incarnations or authentic forms, it doesn't carry much significance. Beings at this level can easily hide in some time-space that they can never find in a lifetime. Don't rush. The Wise One suddenly spoke, for the Supreme Rule Dao to dare impose such a calamity implies the possibility of completion, and if not, what does it matter? There won't be any erasure from the Supreme Rule Dao. Right, just wait and see. Lords like Wan Shang and Nine Dragons nodded successively. They are temporarily adopting a wait-and-see attitude towards the calamity imposed by the will of the Supreme Rule Dao. If there are no other variables or support afterward, they would just give up, as at least lords like Haoshan, Fantian, and the Wise One see no hope in successfully obstructing the galaxy. Conversely, they'll attempt the tribulation after all. Even if they fail in the end, they won't face erasure from the will of the Supreme Rule Dao. Chapter 1468-11, Legendary Lords from Different Times and Spaces. Part 2, Chapter 1468-11, Legendary Lords from Different Times and Spaces. Part 2, have you noticed, the deepest part of space-time is vibrating. At this moment, Fantian Lord spoke, carefully observing the vibration of space-time, discovering that this vibration originated from the ancient past and the distant future. At this moment, under the permeation of the Supreme Rule Dao's will, the past, present, and future were all affected. Past space-time. This was shortly after the endless dimensional planes were established, with chaotic origin Daos crossing each other, numerous powerful time beings, and terrifying Time Lords exploring paths of transcendence. Supreme Rule Dao's will, a colossus suddenly opened its eyes, its body equivalent to tens of thousands of top-dimensional spaces. Even while asleep, its aura influenced vast dimensional gaps, causing time beings to merely comprehend its scattered aura and touch the Third Realm Lord level, actually directing me to a certain future space-time to prevent the galaxy from climbing a new path of transcendence? If successful, it equates to passing 10 trials. Wouldn't that mean directly completing the infinite origin path? The Colossus had an amused smile on its face. Interesting, interesting. Are there many new paths of transcendence in the future? Birth of paths paralleled to the endless tribulations? For beings like the Colossus, it could easily see that most paths of transcendence ultimately failed to transcend, the most hopeful one being the endless tribulations, as this path of transcendence originated from the Supreme Rule Dao. If one truly reached the end, the possibility of transcendence was still significant. The Colossus itself had already overcome 3,290,000,000 trials in the final stage, only 10 trials away from completely finishing. However, as it approached the end, the Colossus became more cautious, not daring to take trials lightly, yet now the Supreme Rule Dao's will actively descended tribulations, and even if it failed, it wouldn't erase. The Colossus naturally had interest. Very well. Let's take a look. The Colossus decided in its heart, first to see if it could successfully pass this trial, and secondly to observe what kind of life form the galaxy was, which incited such actions from the Supreme Rule Dao's will. Buzz. Just before the Colossus decided to take the trial, the Supreme Rule Dao's willpower spread, guiding the Colossus to a certain future spacetime. Without guidance from the Supreme Rule Dao's will, the Colossus would almost never be able to find this spacetime, as the future contained countless divergent branches, becoming increasingly intricate. However, before leaving, the Colossus prepared some arrangements. After all, upon traveling to future space-time, it was unpredictable how long it would take to return. Whoosh! Transcendence ultimately failed to transcend, the most hopeful one being the endless tribulations, as this path of transcendence originated from the Supreme Rule Dao. If one truly reached the end, the possibility of transcendence was still significant. The Colossus itself had already overcome 3,290,000,000 trials in the final stage, only 10 trials away from completely finishing. However, as it approached the end, the Colossus became more cautious, not daring to take trials lightly, yet now the Supreme Rule Dao's will actively descended tribulations, and even if it failed, it wouldn't erase. The Colossus naturally had interest. Very well, let's take a look. The Colossus decided in its heart, first to see if it could successfully pass this trial, and secondly to observe what kind of life form the galaxy was, which incited such actions from the Supreme Rule Dao's will. Buzz. Just before the Colossus decided to take the trial, the Supreme Rule Dao's willpower spread, guiding the Colossus to a certain future space-time. Without guidance from the Supreme Rule Dao's will, the Colossus would almost never be able to find this space-time, as the future contained countless divergent branches, becoming increasingly intricate. However, before leaving, the Colossus prepared some arrangements. After all, upon traveling to future space-time, it was unpredictable how long it would take to return. Whoosh! The Colossus neither affirmed nor denied, but also said nothing more. All right, then you explore first. We'll discuss when I return. The Colossus nodded, finally glancing at the many disciples, then stepped into the future space-time guided by the Supreme Rule Dao's will. After the Colossus left, the disciples subsequently disappeared. Finally, only Wu Yu is left. Teacher, rest assured, I can definitely prove that the perfect time being is indeed a true path to transcendence. Wu Yu silently pondered in his heart, another ancient space-time. An existence filled with infinite light, influencing the dimensional spaces, opened its eyes. Journey to the future time-space to stop galaxy from ascending the new transcendence path. What kind of transcendence path actually triggers the supreme rule, will to descend calamity by itself? The infinitely luminous being thought with interest, even when the unbeatable Wu Yu Lord attempted to reach the perfect time being level, at the cost of his life, and evolved half a thread of transcendence power to prove the existence of the transcendence path of perfect time being. It only caused the supreme rule Dao will to tremble without specially descending calamity. Let's take a look. After pondering for a while, the being filled with infinite light similarly followed the supreme rule Dao will's guidance to proceed to that future time-space. Journey to the future time-space to stop galaxy from ascending the new transcendence path? Just finished a retreat. The returning ruins lord's expression slightly shifted. Success is equivalent to overcoming 1,000 calamities, and failure will not result in eradication? I have now surpassed 3 billion and 1,000 calamities. Another 1,000 calamities. Wouldn't it achieve 3 billion and 2,000 calamities? The returning ruins lord considered for a while. He is clearly aware that the supreme rule Dao will not be so generous. Preventing the Galaxy Lord from ascending the new transcendence path definitely won't be easy. However, even in failure, there is no punishment. It will not be obliterated by the supreme rule Dao will. Naturally, the returning ruins lord doesn't mind giving it a try. Let's go. The returning ruins lord immediately followed the supreme rule Dao will's guidance to proceed to a certain future time-space. Distant future time-space. Every legendary lord who has overcome more than 3 billion calamities has also received the calamity descended by the supreme rule Dao will. Journey to a certain past time-space to stop galaxy's ascendancy on the new transcendence path? This galaxy. Why does it sound so familiar? I remember. It's that existence? Not going. Only a fool would go. Compared to past time-space, every legendary lord of 3 billion calamities in future time-space evidently knows or has heard something, regardless of how great the benefits given by the supreme rule Dao will, they remain unmoved. Of course, accompanying the increasingly distant future time-space, gradually there are some legendary lords who have never understood that some choose to accept the calamity descended by the supreme rule Dao will. Current time-space. Lord Haoshan, Fantian Lord, and other 8 legendary lords of 3 billion calamities are observing the time vibration vaguely connecting past and future. In the next moment. Under their shocking gaze, figures exuding terrifying auras that seem to encompass endless dimensions continually appear. These figures merely standing there begin to naturally influence the surrounding time-space, as if all things in the universe revere them. This, Lord Haoshan, Fantian Lord, and other legendary lords were dumbfounded. The figures stepping out of the deepest time vibration, even the weakest of them, are not inferior to them. Over 90% of the figures emanate auras that transcend them, especially some figures among them. Even a slight glance causes Lord Haoshan, Fantian Lord, and other legendary lords to feel a bit amazed, as if they saw the endpoint of a transcendence path. They are, compared to Lord Haoshan and Fantian Lord, the sage's heart has the greatest tremor. He has experienced incomparably long epics, and the Lord Wu Yu pioneering the perfect time being transcendence path, the figures stepping out of the deepest time vibration. Many are claimed as invincible, overlooked endless dimensions. Soon, the deepest time vibration gradually subsided. At this moment, from past to future, across different time spaces, a total of 503 figures quietly stood in the void, their intangible aura colliding and interweaving, chaotic a series of timelines. These 503 figures, even the weakest among them, are legendary lords who have overcome 3 billion calamities. Most are 3 billion 1,000 calamities, 3 billion 2,000 calamities. There are also those with more than 3 billion 299,000 calamities, only dozens or a few calamities away from traversing the infinite calamities transcendence path. Chapter 1469-12, Joining Forces, Chapter 1469, Chapter 12, Joining Forces Lord Haoshan, Fantian Lord, and other legendary lords as some of the strongest lords of the current time-space. At this moment, amidst the over 500 terrifying figures from past and future time-spaces, they appear exceptionally inconspicuous. Any random figure's aura is much more frightening than theirs. This makes Lord Haoshan and the other legendary lords feel like they've returned to the weak periods of their distant past. No wonder the Supreme Rule Daos will dares to bring down a calamity to stop the Galaxy Lord from climbing the White Jade Stairs. In the hearts of Lord Haoshan and the other legendary lords, there is both shock and realization. It turns out the main force to stop the Galaxy Lord is not them at all, but terrifying entities that oversee endless dimensions from different time spaces. Realizing this, in the hearts of Lord Haoshan and the other legendary lords, a thought emerges again. Does it truly require such grand efforts to stop the Galaxy Lord from climbing the White Jade Stairs? However, the Supreme Rule Daos will certainly cannot be wrong. Does this mean that the true strength of the Galaxy Lord is even beyond their expectations? Lord Hauatian, Fantian Lord, and other legendary lords observing terrifying entities from different time spaces, while these terrifying entities are also quietly observing their surroundings. Is this the time space guided by the Supreme Rule Dao's will? A colossal being, soon after opening from the endless dimensional dimension, glanced around, shocked to find that among the 500 figures, at least 20 auras were no weaker than his own. It's important to know, in his own time period, the colossal being is an absolutely invincible existence, overlooking endless dimensional dimensions. But now? This time, the Supreme Rule Dao's will has gathered so many strong beings. What exactly did that galaxy do? Or is there an issue with his path of transcendence? A figure radiating infinite light scanned the surrounding strong beings with his gaze. I originally thought I was the only one, but I didn't expect there to be so many, and all so strong. Another terrifying entity near the end of the Transcendence Path thought silently. Almost all present are nearing the end of the Transcendence Path in the endless tribulations, well aware of the patterns of calamities brought down by the Supreme Rule Dao's will. The more support given to them, the more it proves that the Galaxy Lord is not easy to handle. Everyone, since we've gathered in this time-space, presumably all agree to the calamity brought down by the Supreme Rule Dao's will to stop the galaxy. The colossal being spoke, the galaxy's true body is climbing that path of transcendence, we have no other way, but under the guidance of the Supreme Rule Dao, all of galaxy's true bodies, avatars, and incarnations have been locked by us. Now, let's discuss what to do. At the same level, if one side wants to hide, it's quite difficult to find them. But since the Supreme Rule Dao's will has brought down the calamity to stop the galaxy, it will naturally help the Tribulation Passers to lock the coordinates of Lin Yuan's many true bodies, avatars, incarnations. The Supreme Rule Dao's will is equivalent to half a transcendence. If he makes a move to lock Lin Yuan's coordinates, there's no difficulty. The colossal being spoke, and other terrifying entities from different time spaces also began to speak and communicate. That galaxy is certainly not easily dealt with. Of course, if he were easy to deal with, why would the Supreme Rule Dao's will go to such lengths, gather us here, even providing so many benefits? Even if we fail, we won't be erased. Yes, the more the Supreme Rule Dao's will acts this way, the more uncertain I feel. If I'd known so many strong beings from different time spaces would come, I might not have come. Too late to regret now that we're here. Naturally, we should see that Galaxy Lord. My thought is, do our utmost to negotiate with that Galaxy Lord. We fear him, he certainly fears us too. As long as the other side doesn't continue to climb the path of transcendence, we can pay any price. Indeed, negotiate first. What if negotiations fail, and that Galaxy insists on climbing the path of transcendence? Then there's no choice but to kill, suppress all true bodies, avatars, incarnations of that Galaxy Lord in the outside world to affect his mindset as much as possible when climbing the path of transcendence. And whether that Galaxy Lord has clansmen, relatives, offspring, or friends, they can be captured and used as threats too. One by one, the terrifying entities spoke in turn. Using clansmen, relatives, offspring, and friends as threats? It inevitably seems shameless, but now, as long as it can influence that galaxy, it increases the chance of passing this calamity. And in getting past this calamity, at least a dozen terrifying entities are equivalent to directly reaching the end of the infinite tribulation transcendence path. Involving the hope of true transcendence, these terrifying entities no longer care about so-called dignity. As long as they can transcend, what does shamelessness matter? Precisely because of this, among the more than 500 terrifying entities, even if some don't approve of the threat method, none raised objections. In that case, let's all set off together. That Galaxy Lord has one true body right at this location. Let's go here first, meet him. Indeed, let's all head over together. The many terrifying entities from different time spaces grandly proceeded towards the direction of the Chaos Void. With the Supreme Rule Dao's will assisting them to lock Lin Yuan's specific location coordinates, these terrifying entities could determine Lin Yuan's whereabouts easily. What should we do? Lord Hauatian, Fantian Lord, and other legendary lords glanced at each other, being close to each other as legendary lords of the current time-space. Chapter 1470, 12, Joining Forces, Part 2. Chapter 1470, Chapter 12, Joining Forces. Part 2, should we follow them? Lord Wansheng tentatively asked. The so-called following them means voluntarily beginning the tribulation, accepting the challenge of preventing the galactic ascent on the path of transcendence. Otherwise, they would not be guided by the will of the Supreme Rule Dao and would be unable to pinpoint Lin Yuan's exact location. Let's follow them. With so many terrifying existences, no matter how strong the galaxy is, it's impossible to resist so easily. Indeed, with these terrifying presences drawing the galaxy's attention, we shouldn't be noticed either. At that time, all we need to do is blend in with them. Even if we fail, they will be the ones hunted by the galaxy. We have a good chance of retreating unscathed. But if we succeed, it would be like overcoming 1,000 tribulations. And the rewards, Lord Hao Shen, Lord Fantian, Lord of Nine Dragons, Lord Wan Sheng, and other legendary lords exchanged glances, finally reaching a decision in their hearts. When the sky falls, taller ones can hold it up. And at this moment, the terrifying entities from different space-time continuums of the past and future are the tall ones. With them confronting the galaxy, Lords Haoshan and Fantian believed it was foolproof, and regardless of success or failure, there would be no significant loss to themselves. This feeling? Lord Chu Wei, in seclusion, digesting gains obtained from the White Jade Steps, suddenly sensed a vast, terrifying aura approaching. In the presence of this immense and terrifying aura, Lord Chu Wei felt as if he were a lone boat sailing on a vast ocean, perishing at any moment. What is that? Lord Chu Wei, as a Third Realm Time Lord, barely managed to follow the source of the terrifying aura and saw over 500 colossal figures approaching. These over 500 figures gave Lord Chu Wei an overwhelming sense of oppression. Any one of them far exceeded Wanwei spacetime and were pinnacle existences of limitless dimensional realms. Lord Haoishan, Lord Fantian, Lord Chu Wei saw among the 500 terrifying figures, 7 or 8 unassuming figures being none other than the legendary lords like Lord Haoishan, whom he could only look up to. So many terrifying existences from different spacetimes? Lord Chu Wei vaguely sensed that although the aura of the 500 figures was terrifying, it did not belong to the current space-time. What exactly is happening? Lord Chu Wei was apprehensive. Although he was a Time Lord, he had not reached the legendary level, and his exploration of the White Jade Steps was limited to the forefront. He was unaware of changes higher up on the White Jade Steps. As for the tribulation to block the galactic ascent, caused by the descent of the will of Supreme Rule Dao, understanding this matter was limited to legendary lords, and Lord Chu Wei was oblivious to it. Lord Chu Wei could already feel the source of the oppression. As for First Realm and Second Realm Time beings, they were utterly panicked, with perception ranges twisted and blurry. The legendary lords of 3 billion tribulations each had exceptionally high achievements on the path of transcendence, beyond what ordinary time beings could perceive. Just as ants cannot see the full picture of an elephant, because it is beyond their understanding. Chaos void. Lin Yuan sat cross-legged, with a slight frown. Have all my true selves, including the true selves within the origin world, and my avatars been locked by the will of the Supreme Rule Dao? With Lin Yuan's current level of strength, he naturally sensed that his location had been locked. Apart from a true self climbing the White Jade Steps, protected by transcendent power and unable to be locked, all other true selves were under the watch of the will of the Supreme Rule Dao. I always knew the will of the Supreme Rule Dao wasn't simple. Lin Yuan slightly shook his head. Originally, upon learning from the Purple Light Legendary Lord that he had become the tribulation of numerous legendary lords of billion tribulations, he planned to hide with the Chaos Void for safety, deep within layered spacetimes. Lin Yuan even exerted the power of the innate Five Great to completely isolate the entire Chaos Void from the timeline. Under these circumstances, other time beings, even those as strong as legendary lords, could not detect the specific location of the Chaos Void. But now, his position was locked, and along with it, so was the Chaos Void. As for Lin Yuan leaving, without him holding the Chaos Void, this concealment would be incomplete and would eventually be discovered. Time fluctuations? Powerful legendary lords from different space-times of past and future? Lin Yuan's expression shifted slightly, feeling the vast aura of time fluctuations from afar. I see. Lin Yuan deduced that the real backup of the will of the Supreme Rule Dao was those pinnacle legendary lords from different space-times, Chaos Void. Lord Mo Shu and other time beings felt a shudder in their hearts. At this moment, the future timelines they were observing were entirely dark and twisted, with lines rapidly collapsing, indicating a looming great terror. This great terror would lead to the annihilation of all future timelines, utterly unheard of, something even Lord Mo Shu and other time beings had never heard of. Galaxy. Galaxy. Upon sensing the future timelines descending into darkness and distortion, Lord Mo Shu and other time beings immediately contacted Lin Yuan. This situation exceeded their handling capabilities and needed to be reported to the pillar of the Chaos Void, the Galaxy Lord. I am already aware of this. In front of Lord Mo Shu and other time beings, the image of Lin Yuan emerged. Galaxy is aware? Yes, if even we sense something amiss, then surely the Galaxy has noticed too. Lord Mo Shu and other time beings sighed slightly in relief, then curiously asked, Galaxy, what exactly is causing this transformation of future timelines? Though observing future timelines by time beings occasionally results in blurring and distortion, it is impossible for them all to be so. This implies that the future bears no vitality, descending into absolute destruction. It is because of me, Lin Yuan said in a calm tone. What Lord Mo Shu and other time beings saw as a wholly dark and blurred future originated from those legendary lords nearing the end of the transcendence path from different spacetimes. So many legendary lords appearing at once, also involving the will of Supreme Rule Dao? Not to mention Lord Mo Shu and other time beings, even Lin Yuan himself found it hard to observe the specific future timelines. Because of you, Galaxy? Lord Mo Shu and other time beings exchanged glances, wanting to ask but hesitating. Arrived. This dimensional space should be the one where the Galaxy Lord is hiding. Outside the chaos void, more than 500 terrifying existences halted, staring at this dimensional space. Such a unique hiding technique, separating even from the timeline. A terrifying existence's gaze expressed wonder. In their sight, there was absolutely nothing here. Yes, if not for the guidance of the will of the Supreme Rule Dao, we wouldn't have discovered that there was a dimensional space here, let alone the location of the Galaxy Lord. One by one, the terrifying existences engaged in dialogue, becoming more cautious. Knowing the concealment methods utilized by the Galaxy Lord even combined, they had to proceed cautiously. These terrifying existences were from different spacetimes. Even if they failed the tribulation, the loss would be limited to their main battle bodies gathered here, leaving survival means in their original spacetimes. This time, the descent of the tribulation from the will of the Supreme Rule Dao, attracting so many terrifying existences, primarily because even if the tribulation failed, they would not be obliterated. If this prerequisite did not exist, perhaps half the terrifying presences would have been absent. None nearing the end of the Transcendence path were fools. The numerous benefits offered by the will of Supreme Rule Dao meant that the tribulation was far from simple. Buzzing Gagoo, just after the 500 terrifying existences arrived at the Chaos Void. The massive Chaos Void gradually manifested, a young man appearing outside the Chaos Void, facing the terrifying presences alone. Galaxy Lord. The leading terrifying existence radiated boundless brilliance, smiling at Lin Yuan. This time, we've come to have a discussion with you, Galaxy Lord. Chapter 1471, 13, Realization. Chapter 1471, Chapter 13, Realization inside the Chaos Void. Lord Mo Shu and several other temporal beings also noticed the terrifying entities from various time and space outside. Despite the dimensional barriers, they could still feel the overwhelming pressure, as if the heavens were collapsing. In the vision of Lord Mo Shu and other temporal beings, it was impossible to observe any of these terrifying entities' full appearances. They could only vaguely see one anomaly after another, either infinite light, or splendidly colorful, or time and space distorted or filled with everything. So many powerful beings far surpassing the Time Lord, are the collapsing timelines of darkness we observe due to them? Lord Mo Shu immediately reacted. Are these powerful beings coming for the galaxy? Luoho couldn't help but say, they come with ill intent. The other temporal beings remained silent. Even a fool could see that these temporal beings came with ill intent. Otherwise, how could they cause one timeline after another to collapse into darkness? And so many powerful beings coming together clearly had the implication of a palace coup. Let's see what the galaxy does. No matter the outcome, we stand with the galaxy. Lord Mo Shu spoke up. Over the years, due to Lin Yuan, they have enjoyed countless benefits. Now that Lin Yuan is in crisis, with the enemy at their door, they naturally know what choice to make, outside the Chaos Void. Lin Yuan looked at each terrifying entity and smiled. Shall we talk? How would you like to discuss? Nearing the end level of the path to transcendence, every move is enough to affect one timeline after another, rendering observations through the timeline of such entities impossible. Thus, Lin Yuan could not foresee the outcome of his confrontation with so many terrifying entities. But clearly, Lin Yuan felt the pressure. These terrifying entities, under the drive of the Supreme Rule Dao's will, could perfectly merge their powers, demonstrating an effect far beyond the simple sum of their parts. As Lin Yuan spoke, over 500 terrifying entities were also observing Lin Yuan. They were curious about the calamity target that could prompt the Supreme Rule Dao's will to gather them together. What kind of existence it really was. Can't see through. I can't see through either. But this galaxy seems unwilling to have a direct conflict with us. Yes, he intends to negotiate with us. Many terrifying entities breathed a small sigh of relief. If it could be resolved in a relatively peaceful manner, it would naturally be the best outcome. As for forcibly threatening with power, that would be a route with no retreat. Who knows what terrible methods the galaxy might possess, with even the Supreme Rule Dao's will being so cautious. How could they dare to underestimate it? It's very simple. The terrifying entity emanating infinite light looked at Lin Yuan. Please have the Galaxy Lord stop ascending the path to transcendence. This is a calamity decreed by the Supreme Rule Dao's will. As long as the Galaxy Lord is willing to stop ascending the path to transcendence, we are willing to pay any price. The terrifying entity with infinite light spoke with a slightly solemn tone. If I can pass this calamity, I will have effectively transcended 10 calamities, equivalent to completing the infinite calamities path to transcendence. By then, if I transcend, I will do my utmost to help. The galaxy transcend. The terrifying entity radiating infinite light said earnestly, I will too. Galaxy Lord, if I can transcend, I will surely do my utmost to assist you. Yes, Galaxy Lord, please fulfill our request. Each terrifying entity immediately promised. If this calamity is successfully overcome, nearly 20 terrifying entities will be able to complete the infinite calamity's path to transcendence. The remaining terrifying entities kept their eyes on Lin Yuan. The promises they offered were by no means scant. Promises from nearly 20 future transcenders? Isn't this more worthwhile than climbing the path to transcendence on one's own? After all, no one can be certain they can achieve transcendence. What you mean is for me to give up my own path to transcendence, to give you the opportunity. Lin Yuan looked at the many terrifying entities with a faint smile. As soon as the words fell, a terrifying entity spoke. Galaxy Lord, it's not about giving us the opportunity, but changing the approach. Can you guarantee that you can definitely transcend? Right, attempting transcendence alone versus having transcenders assist you is the difficulty the same. Galaxy Lord, we hope you can weigh it carefully. Perhaps the path to transcendence you are climbing is wrong. Each terrifying entity spoke with great enthusiasm, seemingly considering Lin Yuan's best interest. What if I refuse? Lin Yuan said with a calm tone. Placing the hope of transcendence in the hands of others? Isn't this equivalent to handing one's fate over to others? Not to mention the infinite calamity's path to transcendence likely cannot lead to transcendence. Even if transcendence is possible, once these terrifying entities become transcenders, would they really willingly help Lin Yuan transcend? True transcenders stand above everything. The so-called oaths, the so-called cause and effect, cannot constrain them at all. Refuse? The terrifying entity shining infinite light fell into a brief silence. Other terrifying entities also fell silent. The promises they made earlier were already their limit. If even this was refused, it seems unnecessary to continue the negotiation. Or change the approach, you all give up undergoing the tribulation, allowing me to complete the path to transcendence. If I can transcend, I will certainly assist you in transcending. How about that? Lin Yuan countered. With those words, the many terrifying entities were left speechless in succession. Naturally, they were unwilling to do so, with concerns similar to Lin Yuan's. Who knows if Lin Yuan would be willing to assist them in transcending once he transcends? You would also refuse, right? Chapter 1472-13, Realization, Part 2, Chapter 1472, Chapter 13, Realization, Part 2. Lin Yuan slightly smiled. Since negotiations have failed, we'll have to test what methods you, the Galaxy Lord, actually possess. The terrifying being radiating infinite light solemnly said, to show our respect, we will join forces and do our utmost. Yes, Galaxy Lord, if you refuse, not only will we act against you, but we will also target your kin, descendants, loved ones, and friends, using every means against you. Another terrifying being spoke with a tone that was cruel and domineering. Any existence nearing the end of the transcendence road would spare no efforts for that final step. Transcendence is right in front of them. After endless epochs of cultivation, all of one's pursuits are about to be realized. How could one still worry about this and that? Indeed, Galaxy Lord, this act, although shameless, leaves us no choice. Galaxy Lord, between you and us, there is no hatred nor enmity. It is entirely for our individual Daos and transcendence that we use any means against you. Similarly, you can do the same against us. The other terrifying beings spoke. The things they are doing now far surpass any concern for shame or facade. Lin Yuan listened quietly. He also found that the will of the Supreme Rule Dao could not lock onto his true form climbing the White Jade Steps. In other words, these terrifying beings from different time spaces could not truly stop him from ascending the White Jade Steps. At worst, he'll abandon all external true forms, avatars, and incarnations. However, doing so is equivalent to giving up everything. Chaos Void, the human race, Lord Mo Shu and other time beings, and many other original worlds. They would all be found and locked onto by these terrifying beings through the guidance of the will of the Supreme Rule Dao. Of course, giving up all of this is something Lin Yuan is reluctant to accept, but when it truly comes to weighing it against transcendence, Lin Yuan would still choose the latter without hesitation. As long as he can transcend in the end, his deceased kin, friends, and race can all be resurrected. Even a transcender can return to past time spaces to change everything, shaping the future as they desire. Lin Yuan would naturally not be swayed by these terrifying beings' threats. However, this is a choice made out of necessity. Before that, Lin Yuan still plans to try, to see if he can repel these terrifying beings from different time spaces, within the Chaos Void. Lord Mo Shu and other time beings were anxiously waiting. At that moment, an incarnation of Lin Yuan descended. Galaxy, Galaxy. Lord Mo Shu and the other time beings immediately inquired. It seems negotiations won't succeed. Lin Yuan looked at Lord Mo Shu and the other time beings. Won't succeed? Lord Mo Shu immediately understood what Lin Yuan meant. Galaxy, rest assured, when the time comes, we will not hesitate to obliterate all avatars and survival methods, leaving no opportunity for them to threaten us. Lord Mo Shu immediately said. As for escaping, in the face of these existences far surpassing the Time Lords, no matter where one escapes, that time-space will be easily found. If not for Lin Yuan's protection, a single glance from these terrifying beings would be enough to obliterate everything. If I can transcend, I will resurrect you all. After Lin Yuan said this, his incarnation quickly dissipated. He needed to gather his full focus to face the ensuing fierce battle. Outside the chaos void, Lin Yuan flipped his right hand and forcibly recalled the chaos void behind him. At his level, even the pinnacle dimensional space could be forcibly relocated and taken away. The many terrifying beings, upon seeing this scene, immediately knew that a confrontation was imminent. Rustle. In the instant when the chaos void is withdrawn, Lin Yuan makes his move. The chaotic origin Tai Yi Dao, chaotic origin Tai Chu Dao, chaotic origin Tai Shi Dao, and chaotic origin Tai Ji Dao instantly permeate, enveloping numerous terrifying existences. Why didn't they escape? Under the lock of the Supreme Rule Dao's will, no matter how Lin Yuan tries to escape, he is fully revealed in the perception of these terrifying existences, making escape unnecessary. Rumble. The 4 types of chaotic origin Dao evolved from the innate 5 great sweep in mightily. Such terrifying power. The terrifying existence, emitting infinite light, feels the suffocating sensation brought on by the 4 types of chaotic origin Dao, and is exceptionally shocked. The power of this Galaxy Lord surpasses any one of them. In a one-on-one situation, no terrifying existence can match the Galaxy Lord. Unable even to maintain an unbeaten position, they would be swiftly defeated. Join forces. The terrifying existence emitting infinite light glances around. Buzz, buzz, buzzy. Over 500 terrifying existences immediately strike, their majestic aura instantly forming layers of cages, encompassing Lin Yuan. Under the blessing of the Supreme Rule Dao's will, all our powers can perfectly fuse together without any inner conflict dissipating. The terrifying existence emitting infinite light thinks to itself, equally confident. Normally, the paths each terrifying existence takes are different, making it impossible for their powers to fuse together. Like water and fire, how can they merge? Forcing a fusion would only lead to an internal collapse. Either water extinguishes fire, or fire consumes fire. Yet, the Supreme Rule Dao's will encompasses everything, able to contain the power of over 500 terrifying existences. Lin Yuan frowns as the power erupted from the 4 types of chaotic origin Dao begins to rapidly collapse under the joint forces of over 500 terrifying existences. Head-on clash, I'm not the opponent. Lin Yuan concludes in his heart that the fully fused powers of over 500 terrifying existences have reached an inconceivable realm. Layers of cages encompass various types of chaotic origin Dao, beginning to suppress Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan can only choose to withstand it head-on. His physical body is unbelievably strong, with each particle world comparable to a dimension, coupled with numerous defensive means and recovery methods. Even if the powers of over 500 terrifying existences fully merge, at most they can slightly suppress him, without posing any real threat. That's all your means? Lin Yuan looks at the terrifying existences. That's all your means? The terrifying existence emitting infinite light is somewhat troubled. They've already given their all, yet still cannot overcome Lin Yuan. Give it your all. The terrifying existence emitting infinite light immediately transmits a message. As terrifying existences near the end of transcendence, naturally, they have many desperate means to unleash battle power far beyond their usual limit in a short time. Rumble. As the terrifying existences choose to give it their all, the pressure Lin Yuan bears begins to rise rapidly. Each particle world within his flesh collapses, although simultaneously recovering. The recovery speed clearly cannot catch up with the collapse speed. Can't hold on? Lin Yuan sighs inwardly, then closes his eyes. Meanwhile, on the endless white jade staircase, Lin Yuan, who is climbing, pauses and stops. He focuses all his mind on resisting the joint forces of over 500 terrifying existences, having no extra energy to climb the white jade staircase. The white jade staircase isn't something that can be climbed at will. Ascending each step requires facing terrifying compressive twisting forces and numerous illusions, as well as comprehending the subsequent direction of one's chaotic origin Dao. At this moment, Lin Yuan clearly has no energy to do so, hence he can only choose to pause and stop. Lin Yuan turns to look down, as the dissolution starting from the middle of the white jade staircase is rapidly spreading toward him. Do I really have to abandon everything in the external world, clansmen, homeland, friends, to achieve transcendence? Lin Yuan remains silent. The best choice now is to actively obliterate everything true self and avatars in the external world, and climb the white jade staircase without distraction. Did my future self, millions of years later, also make this choice? Scenes from one-way space-time flashed through Lin Yuan's mind when he was forced by the Blood Sea Lord to summon his future self. At that time, the scene shown by the future self was also on the white jade staircase, the endless white jade staircase, with only the solitary figure of the future self, seemingly alone in a vast world. And now, with the Supreme Rule Dao's will permeating past and future, Lin Yuan can no longer summon his future self. Lin Yuan exhaled lightly and stretched out his right hand. The power of chaotic origin Tai Yi Dao, chaotic origin Tai Chu Dao, chaotic origin Tai Shi Dao, and chaotic origin Tai Yi Dao intertwining and colliding within. Instantly, within Lin Yuan's view, the power of the four types of chaotic origin Dao begins to diffuse, subtly nurturing the power of the fifth form of chaotic origin Dao. As soon as the power of the fifth form of chaotic origin Dao emerges, it rapidly and perfectly merges with the previous four types of chaotic origin Dao, until, boom. Chapter 1473-14, An Ant Beholds the Heavens. Chapter 1473, Chapter 14, An Ant Beholds the Heavens, Chaotic Origin, Tai Su Dao. At this moment, propelled by the four types of chaotic origin Dao, the last chaotic origin Dao, evolved from the innate five great, has been completely formed. Chaotic origin Tai Yi Dao, chaotic origin Tai Chu Dao, chaotic origin Tai Shu Dao, chaotic origin Tai Su Dao, and chaotic origin Tai Yi Dao rapidly fused, and a new Dao began to emerge. Climbing the White Jade Steps for over 20,000 years, Lin Yuan was just one step away from enlightening the chaotic origin Tai Su Dao, with all his accumulation reaching its pinnacle, yet he could never take that step. Now, under the threat of terrifying entities from different times and spaces, he finally achieved his wish, fusion. Lin Yuan's thoughts moved slightly. The five types of chaotic origin Dao quickly fused together. More accurately, it was the chaotic origin Tai Su Dao merging into the previous four types of chaotic origin Dao. Like a map missing a corner, it was completely filled, achieving perfection without any flaws. This, Lin Yuan immersed his entire mind into the newly born Dao. The new Dao was formed by the fusion of five types of chaotic origin Dao, standing above numerous chaotic origin Daos, even having a hint of the supreme rule Dao. As soon as the new Daos was born, it began to nurture Lin Yuan, nourishing everything about him, his physical body, soul, psyche, and will, etc. All his true bodies, main body, avatars, as long as it was Lin Yuan, were enhancing at an inconceivable speed. Boominions. Lin Yuan's consciousness roared, his body, soul, and psyche surged rapidly, causing him to momentarily let go of his attention to the outside world, located in the chaos void. This area has thoroughly become a battlefield aimed at subduing Lin Yuan. Over 500 terrifying entities from different times and spaces began a desperate fight, combined with their power being completely drawn together by the Supreme Rule Dao's will. The resulting power shook countless times and spaces of the past and future. In fact, aside from over 500 terrifying entities from different times and spaces, numerous legendary lords of the current time and space also participated, such as Lord Haotian and Fantian Lord. Legendary lords from other times and spaces desire the supreme rule, Dao's will to descend to prevent the galaxy's catastrophe, with the starting threshold being surviving 3 billion catastrophes. But the legendary lords of the current time and space only need to survive 1 billion catastrophes to participate in preventing the galaxy from climbing a new transcendent path in this catastrophe. After over 500 terrifying entities arrived, Lord Haotian and Fantian Lord led the charge forward, and numerous other legendary lords who survived 1 billion catastrophes followed. With so many powerful lords ahead, even if the final catastrophe failed, they could retreat unharmed. This is the true thought of the numerous legendary lords of the current time and space who survived 1 billion catastrophes. Failure means little loss, whereas success brings great benefits. Hence, over 90% of the legendary lords who survived 1 billion catastrophes participated. The number reached tens of thousands. However, in suppressing the Galaxy Lord, tens of thousands of legendary lords who survived 1 billion catastrophes merely served as support. The true main force comprised over 500 terrifying entities from different times and spaces. With Lin Yuan's enlightenment of the chaotic origin Tai Su Dao, the fusion of the 5 types of chaotic origin Dao into a new Dao rapidly nurtured him, his mind wholly immersed in the newly born Dao. This consequently relaxed his defense against over 500 terrifying entities from the outside world. The invisible barrier formed by the outer universe began to dissipate, and numerous life-saving defense mechanisms gradually ceased operation. A good opportunity. The terrifying entity releasing infinite radiance brightened its eyes. Though it didn't know why Lin Yuan was experiencing this phenomenon, it was undoubtedly a rare opportunity for them at the present moment. Even though over 500 terrifying entities were fighting for their lives, truly suppressing and handling Lin Yuan would still fall into a relatively prolonged stalemate. But now, Lin Yuan actually took the initiative to abandon defense? Isn't this giving them an opportunity? Light of origin. The terrifying entity releasing infinite radiance suddenly exploded, converging all its power into a brilliant line. This line trembled numerous spaces and times, and seeing this, other terrifying entities followed suit, unleashing truly desperate killing moves. The forces of numerous killing moves, under the embrace of the Supreme Rule Dao's will, completely fused, emitting a thoroughly condensed dark strike, sweeping toward Lin Yuan. Without the defenses like the outer universe, this amalgamated dark strike from all terrifying entities and tens of thousands of legendary lords struck Lin Yuan's physical body without obstruction. Threads of radiance reassembled. The terrifying entity releasing infinite light was utterly shocked, watching Lin Yuan as if he gave up defending. The gathered desperate killing move indeed landed on Lin Yuan, but did not shake him a bit. The terrifying forces were absorbed, devoured, and vanished upon contact with Lin Yuan's body. How is it possible? The terrifying entity releasing infinite light was incredulous. The fused dark strike was easily blocked like this. The Galaxy Lord's defense mechanisms are so extraordinary. If they were truly this extraordinary, how could the Galaxy Lord have behaved that way during their united assault and suppression just now? Hidden strength or a breakthrough in the moment? The terrifying entity releasing infinite light pondered. Only these two possibilities could explain the current occurrence. The entity inclined towards the former possibility, as achieving a breakthrough during battle is simply too incredible. The stronger the power, the higher the realm, the more rigorous the secluded environment needed for each breakthrough. Chapter 1474, 14, An Ant Beholds the Heavens. Part 2, Chapter 1474, Chapter 14, An Ant Beholds the Heavens, Part 2, Breaking Through in the Midst of Battle. It might happen when one is weak, but for terrifying entities approaching the end of the path to transcendence, it is indeed a fantasy. Lin Yuan stood there quietly. At this moment, his physique had become unimaginably strong, able to withstand the combined lethal strikes of over 500 terrifying entities and more than 10,000 legendary lords with merely his physical body, without resorting to any means. Are you ready to die? Lin Yuan opened his eyes, looking at the over 500 terrifying entities and more than 10,000 legendary lords. Ha 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 ha. The terrifying entity releasing infinite brightness laughed, also gazing at Lin Yuan. Galaxy Lord, we have underestimated you. You actually concealed such a defense mechanism. I admit that in terms of defense, Galaxy Lord, you are unparalleled across all eras of infinite dimensional space, unmatched by any legendary lord, seriously said the terrifying entity releasing infinite brightness. But that's all there is to it. The terrifying entity releasing infinite brightness shook his head. A strong defense doesn't mean you can kill us, not to mention that we possess countless means to preserve our lives. Past and future across countless time spaces have backup plans. As long as there are beings who remember our names, we are considered immortal. What can you use to kill us? For over 500 terrifying entities, besides the Supreme Rule Dao's will personally erasing them, they truly didn't know how they could die. Even the infinite origin path to transcendence posed no great risk to them. The most difficult part was not knowing where the true time origin lies. Lin Yuan looked at the numerous entities. A faint imprint emerged on his brow. The essence of the imprint was a new Dao born from the fusion of 5 chaotic origin Daos, which Lin Yuan tried to activate, seeing an invisible energy spread with him as the center, extending in all directions. The spread of the energy instantly shattered the heavily layered prison formed by over 500 terrifying entities. Bang bang bangangs. The prison collapsed, and over 500 terrifying entities finally directly felt the permeating and expanding invisible energy. What is this? The pupils of the terrifying entity releasing infinite brightness contracted. At this moment, he felt an unprecedented sense of oppression, and his mind involuntarily suffocated and trembled. Can't withstand it. Definitely can't withstand it. The terrifying entity releasing infinite brightness widened his eyes, instinctively knowing that the invisible energy was absolutely unstoppable. How is this possible? How is this possible? In disbelief, the terrifying entity releasing infinite brightness didn't have time to think further and directly exploded, transforming into rays of light fleeing in all directions. Since it couldn't be stopped, he wouldn't try, but instead avoid it from afar. How sharp the eyesight of the other terrifying entities was, they similarly sensed something amiss and immediately began retreating rapidly to escape. Further away, the more than 10,000 current time space's legendary lords couldn't escape in time, as nearly 1,000 of them were immediately touched by the invisible energy. A two-horned legendary lord of 200 million tribulations showed a look of horror as, under the sweep of the invisible energy, his physical body, soul, mind, and will began to be annihilated without suspense. If it were only thus, this legendary lord wouldn't be so terrified, but as the invisible energy spread, his past self, future self, life-preserving means along various timelines, and even traces of his existence began to be obliterated. And once all traces related to him are erased, it would mean complete and thorough death, with no chance of resurrection. How could this not terrify this legendary lord? Galaxy Lord, I was wrong. The invisible energy continued to spread, and the pleading of the horned legendary lord was abruptly cut off, being completely erased. Galaxy Lord, the terrifying entity releasing infinite brightness appeared again, looking at the spot where the horned legendary lord was annihilated, likewise realizing that the opponent had indeed completely died and fallen. Although the horned legendary lord had only undergone 200 million tribulations to be completely fallen? Only the Supreme Rule Dao's will could accomplish it. Even if he personally made a move, at most, he could only kill several main combat physical bodies of the opponent, far from being able to completely kill the opponent. But now, the horned legendary lord had indeed completely fallen. Have you transcended? The terrifying entity releasing infinite brightness asked in a deep voice. At this moment, Lin Yuan's methods had completely surpassed his understanding. With a casual strike, he could completely kill a legendary lord of 200 million tribulations? Far from transcendence. Lin Yuan gently shook his head, then looked at the 500-plus silhouettes, including the terrifying entity releasing infinite brightness. It's your turn. Boom. The invisible energy suddenly enveloped them, leaving the terrifying entity releasing infinite brightness with no choice but to withstand it. Not transcended? Upon contact with the invisible energy, in mere moments, the terrifying entity releasing infinite brightness found that more than 40% of his past selves and future selves along various timelines had their means completely annihilated. Leave. Everyone leave. Return to your respective time spaces. The terrifying entity releasing infinite brightness immediately shuddered with fear, although he hadn't completely fallen like the horned legendary lord. But after erasing more than 40% of traces along past and future timelines, if Lin Yuan made 2 or 3 more moves, he would be no different from the horned legendary lord. Return to respective time spaces? Over 500 terrifying entities immediately understood the meaning of the words. They were not life forms of the current time space. As long as they returned to their respective time spaces, Lin Yuan would have to follow them to kill them. Chapter 1475-14, An Ant Beholds the Heavens. Chapter 1475, Chapter 14, An Ant Beholds the Heavens. Having lost the consent of the Supreme Rule, Dao's will, acting in the past time and space, will create various repercussions that will weigh heavily on Lin Yuan. Over 500 terrifying beings are nearly invincible in their respective time and space. Their deaths would have an immense impact on the future. The overwhelming backlash no one can withstand. Without transcendence, Lin Yuan would absolutely not dare to do so. Go, go, go. Return, all of you. Terrifying beings, one after another, immediately and without hesitation, follow the rejection of their current time-space, wishing to return to their original space-time. In this way, it means failure in transcending tribulation, but it's better than completely perishing here. Want to leave? Lin Yuan saw through the thoughts of over 500 terrifying beings and gently closed his eyes. Heaven and earth as a prison. When Lin Yuan opened his eyes again, the mark on his brow exploded suddenly, and the invisible energy began to spread and diffuse towards endless dimensional barriers. At this moment, the endless dimensional barrier of the current time-space condensed like a prison. Only entry, no exit. Even terrifying beings of non-current time-space were locked here. No? The faces of the terrifying beings changed dramatically, some directly annihilating their current main battle body. However, even though the main battle body was annihilated, it left slight traces, swept by the invisible energy, which could also diffuse along these traces to the many timelines of past and future life-saving means. Swoosh. The invisible energy rippled like waves. Legendary lords of 100 million tribulations and 200 million tribulations couldn't hold on for an instant, directly being completely erased. Past, present, future, layers of time-space all erased. Legendary lords close to 300 million tribulations could hold on for a few breaths, but it was of no consequence, as after a few breaths, they were equally erased. Past, present, future, layers of time-space all erased. Over 500 terrifying beings near the end of the road to transcendence proved far more difficult to deal with, but under the sweep of invisible energy gathered by the new Dao, annihilation was only a matter of time. Lin Yuan sat high atop the space, time, the entire dimensional barrier below like an alchemy furnace, refining the legendary lords and terrifying beings. Time-space shook, timelines twisted and collapsed. A silver shadow followed the timeline, wanting to return to its original time-space. Finally past the 200 millionth tribulation. A smile appeared on the face of the silver shadow. I, Lord Wanwei, am now closer to transcendence. The silver shadow, namely Lord Wanwei, had just gone to a distant future segment of time-space, slain the tribulation target, and completed the test imposed by the Supreme Rule. Now it was leaving the future time-space, returning to its original time-space. Just then, a segment of extremely chaotic vibrating time-space affected Lord Wanwei's return direction, forcibly pulling it in. Sinking into this extremely chaotic dark time-space, Lord Wanwei initially did not care too much, but with only slight observation, felt an unprecedented suffocation. The entire time-space was completely sealed, and upon falling in, Lord Wanwei realized it had lost complete connection with its original time-space, unable to return. What shocked Lord Wanwei even more was that this space-time was undergoing a fierce and gruesome massacre. Many legendary lords not weaker than it were falling one after another, blood of carcasses scattering across the void. Terrorizing existences with extremely horrifying aura were similarly rapidly perishing. These terrifying beings had at least passed 300 million tribulations, even 300 million 1,000 tribulations, 300 million 2,000, approaching the end of the road to transcendence, yet still falling without resistance, perishing, extinguished. Lord Wanwei descended at an exceptionally fortunate position, temporarily untouched by the invisible energy, standing in the corner of the battlefield, surrounded by countless corpses, legendary lords of million tribulations cheap as ants. Lord Wanwei struggled within its gaze, raising its neck with difficulty, looking towards the high place of time-space. There, cross-legged, sat a silhouette, the source of all slaughter on the battlefield. Lord Wanwei dumbly gazed upward at that figure, as if an ant seeing the vast sky. Chapter 1477-15, On the Road, Grand Finale, tomorrow. Chapter 1477, Chapter 15, On the Road, Grand Finale, tomorrow. So naturally, he wouldn't make a move against Lord Wanwei, but instead deliberately spared a sliver of power to send him back to his original time and space. At the same time, having already resigned himself to death, Lord Wanwei was stunned to discover that the invisible aura that swept towards him had dissipated completely. Not only that, the space-time that had turned into a prison from which one could enter but not exit silently tore open a gap. A gentle force wrapped around Lord Wanwei, pulling him into the torn gap, away from this time and space. The slaughter continued unabated. The entire endless dimensional realm became Lin Yuan's killing field. All the legendary lords involved in the trillion disasters of the current time and space came under Lin Yuan's reprisal and eradication. They threatened him by any means necessary, but Lin Yuan naturally had no need to hold back and let them completely perish. What is happening? Why are the legendary lords perishing one after another? The other legendary lords were parched in the mouth. Over 90% of the legendary lords of the trillion disasters in this time and space had participated in preventing the Galaxy Lord from ascending the steps of White Jade. But there were still 10% of the legendary lords of the trillion disasters who, out of caution, did not partake, thereby inadvertently avoiding a life and death catastrophe. The galaxy has the power of the Galaxy Lord transcended. Horrific entities from different times and spaces, starting at 3 trillion disasters, some even nearing the end of the transcendence path, have completely and utterly perished? It's terrifying. Transcendence, if this isn't transcendence, what is? Numerous legendary lords watched the slaughter from afar, hearts filled with shock and reverence. This is the galaxy. Purple Light Legendary Lord swallowed deeply, recalling the scene shown when Lin Yuan was forced to summon his future self within the Wanwei time and space. In the scene, an endless staircase of white jade ascended endlessly, with only one figure continually climbing, the future Lin Yuan. So, I've long since witnessed the outcome of this disaster, the Purple Light Legendary Lord muttered to himself. At that time, Lin Yuan's future self was still climbing the white jade steps unobstructed. This means that the disaster decreed by the Supreme Rule Dao to prevent the galaxy from ascending was doomed to fail. Yet, what the Purple Light Legendary Lord did not expect was such a cruel outcome of failure. All involved legendary lords, none escaped, all perished completely. The galaxy, the proprietor of the time-space shop, the 12-eyed anomalous beast, was also observing from afar. He was not even a legendary lord, and could not even clearly see the scenes of battle, but it was evident that those terrifying entities, the legendary lords who had joined forces to attack, seemed to be thoroughly suppressed by the Galaxy Lord. The fallen legendary lords were too numerous. The terrifying entities from different times and spaces aside, just the legendary lords of the trillion disasters from the current time and space, over 10,000 fell completely. Over 10,000 legendary lords of the trillion disasters? This was the accumulation of countless ages of legendary lords of the trillion disasters, all fallen in Lin Yuan's slaughter. The legendary lords watching from afar, though not directly impacted, were no less afraid. The legendary lords of this time and space would undoubtedly have to endure an unprecedented epic of darkness. Witnessing the fall and death of mighty legendary lords one after another, the aura of slaughter permeated heaven and earth. Once reigning supreme above all in this disaster, the legendary lords were as worthless as ants. Time passed by. To thoroughly eliminate every participating legendary lord, Lin Yuan maintained the slaughter for several days. Mainly because of the prolific survival tactics of the horrific entities from different times and spaces, even though the new Dao formed from the fusion of 5 chaotic origin Daos possessed absolute crushing power. But locking down one by one the various survival tactics of these horrific entities took quite some time, especially those survival tactics involving the mind, where as long as a living being remembered the name of a horrific entity, it could use it as an anchor point to return. To eliminate these mental anchor points, Lin Yuan spent considerable effort. But it was merely effort. After several days, Lin Yuan finally completed the slaughter. Dispersed now, Lin Yuan thought the time and space that had turned into a cage from which one could only enter but not exit gradually opened up again. Solidifying this segment of time and space was still quite taxing for the current Lin Yuan. Now that all enemies were dealt with, there was no need to maintain it anymore. Lin Yuan pondered as he glanced at the endless dimensional realm. More precisely, he looked at the will of the supreme rule Dao that traversed the endless dimensional realm. Rumbling, the will of the supreme rule Dao roared, but eventually retreated quickly. The will of the supreme rule Dao is an entity that maintains the operation of the endless dimensional realm, devoid of a specific consciousness or will, incapable of acting against a particular being personally. This time, as Lin Yuan ascended the white jade steps, the will of the supreme rule Dao, regardless of its reluctance, did not act against Lin Yuan, but rather rallied the most powerful lords from different time and spaces. Does the will of the supreme rule Dao not wish for a transcendent existence to arise from the endless dimensional realm? This path of infinite disasters should not truly lead to transcendence. Lin Yuan was almost certain in his heart. Infinite tribulations stem from the will of the supreme rule Dao. If the latter is unwilling for there to be transcenders, the end of this path of transcendence cannot be transcendence. Wish. Lin Yuan flipped his right hand. The chaos void reappeared in its original place. Lin Yuan took a step forward, returning to the chaos void. Galaxy, galaxy, galaxy. The time beings like Lord Mo Shu looked at Lin Yuan, who appeared not far away. Their expressions were both shocked and awed, although Lin Yuan directly absorbed the chaos void into his inner universe, only now bringing it out. But the time beings like Lord Mo Shu left avatars in the outer world, in the vast dimensional gaps. The battle between the Galaxy Lord and the over 500 terrifying entities from different time spaces, as well as over 10,000 legendary lords of current time space who had endured a billion tribulations, was of immense commotion. Even a first-realm time being could sense something from the aftermath of the battlefield. Everything is over. Lin Yuan nodded towards Lord Mo Shu and the other time beings. It's all over? The time beings exchanged a glance, feeling a slight chill down their spines. Before the chaos void was absorbed by Lin Yuan, they had also sensed the presence of those terrifying entities arriving. Could it be that Lin Yuan had dealt with all those terrifying entities? Galaxy, those enemies, Luoho asked with a forced composure. He had some guesses in his heart, and due to his connection with Lin Yuan, he had befriended some Time Lords who told him a lot of incredibly unbelievable information. They're all dead. Lin Yuan glanced at Luoho, casually saying, completely dead. Upon hearing this, the time beings like Lord Mo Shu felt a bit bewildered in their hearts. Initially, they were prepared for self-extinguishment, not giving the enemies a chance to threaten Lin Yuan. But now it seemed that all the enemies had been completely vanquished. After a good while, Lord Mo Shu steadied himself and couldn't help but ask, Galaxy, have you transcended? The other time beings in the Chaos Void perked up their ears upon hearing this. They also wanted to know the answer to this question. In fact, it wasn't just them. The remaining legendary lords in the endless dimensional spaces wanted to know if the Galaxy Lord had truly transcended. Although many speculations followed that the Galaxy Lord had transcended, these were ultimately just speculations. Transcended? Lin Yuan's face remained calm, and he did not answer directly. Instead, he looked at the outside of the Chaos Void, at the higher reaches of endless dimensional spaces. It was as if he was observing himself climbing the white jade steps. Having comprehended the final type of chaotic origin Dao, Lin Yuan underwent a complete qualitative transformation. Even after spending several days slaughtering numerous lords, it didn't expend much of his energy. The true self on the white jade steps had long resumed climbing. Giving another glance at Lord Mo Shu and the other time beings, Lin Yuan smiled slightly and gave a reply. On the path. 1-1-1-1-1-1 P.S. The finale is tomorrow. The last few chapters have been carefully pondered over, and although somewhat reluctant, the storyline has reached its end and should conclude. The double monthly ticket event starts on the 29th. Here I am asking for a wave of monthly tickets. It's also the last time I'm asking for monthly tickets. Let this book have a not too bad ending. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Bow and gratitude. Chapter 1478, 16, Beyond Transcendence, Grand Finale. Chapter 1478, Chapter 16, Beyond Transcendence, Grand Finale. Lord Mo Shu, Luoho, and other time beings listened obediently, and their hearts stirred with ripples after receiving the answer. On the path, does that mean Lin Yuan hasn't transcended? So powerful, yet not transcended, Lord Mo Shu, Luoho, and other time beings had countless thoughts. Next, I will go into seclusion and won't appear for a very long time, Lin Yuan said. Now he has basically abandoned the path of endless tribulations as a way of transcendence, as it's simply impossible to transcend. He intends to devote all his energy to the endless white jade steps. At least for now, Lin Yuan still feels immense pressure when climbing the white jade steps. The new Dao, born from the fusion of 5 chaotic origin Dao, is still far from being able to shake the endless white jade steps themselves. Lord Mo Shu, Luoho, and other time beings nodded. Seclusion is normal for time beings. Moreover, after today, the name of the Galaxy Lord will transcend ancient and future, and no lord would dare to provoke them. Chaos Void. I will make it jump out of the timeline and be unobservable by any existence. Lin Yuan's mind flickered, and the entire Chaos Void began to rumble. In fact, even before comprehending the chaotic origin Taiji Dao, Lin Yuan was able to make the chaos void detach from the timeline, but it was still a bit incomplete. And now, even the will of the Supreme Rule Dao can hardly pinpoint the specific coordinates of the chaos void. Under the watch of Lord Mo Shu, Luo Hu, and other time beings, Lin Yuan silently disappeared. Unexpectedly, the galaxy hasn't transcended? Lord Mo Shu calmed himself, his tone filled with emotion. For us, for other time beings, for the Time Lord, whether the galaxy has transcended makes little difference, Zhu Yin said. Other time beings nodded in agreement. Lin Yuan was too powerful, powerful enough to easily obliterate all legendary lords throughout history, single-handedly. This isn't transcendence? What is transcendence? On the endless white jade steps. Lin Yuan continues to climb unhurriedly. These white jade steps, Lin Yuan marveled in his heart that even with his current strength, the new Dao born from the fusion of 5 chaotic origin Dao still perceives transformation during the climbing of the white jade steps. Transcendence, Lin Yuan's eyes reflected a mysterious glimmer. He hasn't transcended yet. In fact, he is very far from transcendence, so far that the end is unseen. The gap from the 13th rank to the 14th rank is just too vast. Lin Yuan shook his head slightly. If the 14th rank were equivalent to transcendence, then the 13th rank attempting to break through to the 14th rank is basically impossible. The gap is too wide. This is why no lord on the path of perfect time being has fully walked this path. They say whether you can fully walk the path of perfect time being depends on fate, on one's own path. But this is not accurate. At least from Lin Yuan's current heightened perspective, it is clear that the real reason perfect time being hasn't seen any lord successfully transform is the vast gap. The 12th rank can break through to the 13th rank because the foundation is there. But if a first rank wants to directly cross into the 13th rank, the only result is being blown up. However, the gap from the 13th rank to the 14th rank is much more exaggerated than a first rank directly crossing into the 13th rank. Of course, one's path determines whether one can become a 14th rank perfect time being. This is not incorrect. If one's path has vast potential and can easily bear the vast gaps akin to a heavenly chasm, then one can naturally transform smoothly into a perfect time being. But so far, such a path has yet to appear. Even if it's a path, it needs to grow. Lin Yuan's Taiji Dao comprehended at the second layer wasn't expected to transform into the chaos innate 5 great Dao as it is now. As his thoughts turned, Lin Yuan did not slow down his pace of climbing the white jade steps. With each step climbed, Lin Yuan's own origin Dao refined a bit further. His strength increased a bit further, endlessly like the white jade steps themselves. And as the climb continued upward, the surrounding space-time gradually changed, vaguely beginning to transcend the scope of endless dimensional layers, as if the end of the white jade steps was not in the endless dimensional layers but somewhere eternally supreme. The current white jade steps, as Lin Yuan climbed, he also noticed changes in the white jade steps. The higher the height, the deeper the white jade steps seem, just like the Myriad Realms gate deep in Lin Yuan's mind. There are clear differences between the two, but in some respects there are some similarities. The white jade steps are connected with the Myriad Realms gate. Lin Yuan diverted part of his mind to sink into the depths of his mind, looking at that magnificent and towering Myriad Realms gate. Even now, the Myriad Realms gate in the depths of Lin Yuan's mind is still not the entity but rather a projected shadow. In fact, when the path of the endless white jade steps appeared as a way of transcendence, Lin Yuan suspected it had some connection with the Myriad Realms gate. After all, before breaking through to become a time being, he had that strange and varied dream, in which the final scene was arriving at a supreme place through climbing the endless white jade steps, where there was an infinitely tall light gate, and leaning against the light gate was a man with closed eyes. Whether there's a connection, reaching the end will reveal everything. Lin Yuan collected his thoughts and continued climbing. Time swiftly passed. 10,000 years, 100,000 years, 1,000,000 years, 5,000,000 years. Lin Yuan continued climbing the endless white jade steps. Chapter 1479-16, Beyond Transcendence, Grand Finale. Part 2, Chapter 1479, Chapter 16, Beyond Transcendence. Grand Finale? Part 2? At a certain moment, Lin Yuan felt a subtle movement in his heart. A call from the past, a summon, vaguely established a connection with him. Lin Yuan's right foot, which was about to step onto the next step, paused slightly. Is it that time? Lin Yuan suddenly realized, at this moment, it was his past self, forced by the Blood Sea Lord while exploring the one-way space-time hundreds of millions of years ago, that contacted him. Swish! Lin Yuan casually waved his sleeve. An invisible aura crossed space-time, sweeping towards the past against the timeline. Immediately, the past and future of the Blood Sea Lord completely collapsed and vanished. After all this, Lin Yuan continued to climb, ascending step by step. The pressure from the Blood Sea Lord for Lin Yuan at that time was unimaginably immense. After all, he was a legendary lord. But now, 5,000,000 years ago, someone like the Blood Sea Lord was not even qualified to appear before Lin Yuan, let alone now. After 5 million years of climbing, Lin Yuan's strength is thousands or even tens of thousands of times greater than 5 million years ago. Still cannot transcend, Lin Yuan thought silently to himself, now feeling like he could withstand the will of the Supreme Rule Dao. That is to say, even if the Supreme Rule Dao itself took action, it couldn't erase him. Keep climbing. Lin Yuan didn't dwell on it, paused for a moment, then stepped onto the next step again. Time began to flow rapidly again. Tens of millions of years, hundreds of millions of years, billions of years. An epic of great destruction. 10 epics of great destruction. 100 epics of great destruction. This is the highest point in terms of spatial significance, and the original source in terms of time significance. A magnificent and towering gate of light stood there, its existence silently influencing multiple timelines, numerous dimensional spaces, dimension heaven and earth, and countless beings. And at the threshold of the gate of light leaned a blurred figure. The blurred figure's face was indistinct, seemingly with eyes closed as if asleep. It appeared to lean beneath the towering and magnificent gate of light, yet the aura it subtly emitted was above the gate of light, with the slightest breath sweeping through countless timelines, birthing the universe, all dimensions, and infinite dimensional worlds. Whoosh! The blurred figure leaning against the gate of light moved slightly, eyes slowly opening. At this moment, the figure was no longer blurred. Everything became clear. It looked identical to Lin Yuan, but much stronger, much deeper, and the strand of aura it casually emitted far exceeded the will of the Supreme Rule Dao. This cycle of reincarnation ended so quickly? Lin Yuan stood up, standing beneath the gates of endless dimensions and grand light, looking down. A never-ending staircase of white jade led to this place, while the starting end descended into infinite dimensional worlds. Lin Yuan's gaze swept through the infinite dimensional worlds, capturing not only the spatial but also the temporal aspects, observing everything from the beginning of these worlds to the present without any concealment or cover. This is the 30,033rd cycle of reincarnation. The previous 30,032 cycles ended only after experiencing an entire era, but this one ended so early, indicating that my accumulation must be full. Lin Yuan pondered in his heart. The infinite dimensional worlds created by Lin Yuan serve to walk different paths, enhance accumulation, and own foundation to step into higher levels. Typically, the time for a cycle of reincarnation would not exceed the lifespan of the infinite dimensional worlds from birth to destruction. In past cycles, Lin Yuan would awaken only after experiencing a complete era of reincarnation, and all the experiences and paths of that era would convert into accumulation and foundation. And now, it took only a few hundred epochs of great destruction. A few hundred epochs of great destruction, compared to a complete reincarnation era, was merely akin to a nap. In each reincarnation, I would abandon all methods. Even my memories were sealed, leaving only a projection of the Myriad Realms Gate accompanying me. But to enhance the sense of pressure, even the projection of the Myriad Realms Gate had no offensive means, as I took away all real combat capabilities. Lin Yuan's expression showed a hint of emotion, the Myriad Realms Gate being his crafted vital weapon, where its projection's main purpose was to guide Lin Yuan's reincarnated self through various dimensional spaces, and most importantly, through the 33 origin worlds. These 33 origin worlds weren't as simple as they appeared superficially, crafted with immense effort by Lin Yuan for his reincarnated self. In the past 30,032 cycles of reincarnation, Lin Yuan had not grasped the mysteries of the 33 origin worlds. However, in this 33,033rd cycle, by merely exploring over a dozen origin worlds, the cycle ended, signifying that he completely comprehended the essence of the 33 origin worlds. Just like a bucket, if not full, the overflowing water won't spill out. Only when it is full will there be an overflow. This cycle ended so fast for Lin Yuan, signifying that the accumulation was complete, with no further need for cycles. Chaotic Origin, Taiji Dao, Innate 5, Great, Chaos Innate, 5 Great Fusion Dao. Lin Yuan felt the harvest of this cycle, a smile appearing on his face. No wonder it ended so fast. The path realized has entirely complemented the path I've been walking. Infinite dimensional worlds. Lin Yuan's gaze swept through the infinite dimensional worlds over the 30,333 cycles of reincarnation. Each cycle's experiences were generally identical. Chapter 1480, 16, Beyond Transcendence, Grand Finale, Part 3. Chapter 1480, Chapter 16, Beyond Transcendence, Grand Finale, Part 3. For instance, in the numerous previous reincarnations, Lin Yuan reached the end and similarly faced obstruction from the will of the Supreme Rule Dao, summoning various terrifying beings from the past and future to confront him. In those reincarnations, Lin Yuan generally couldn't resist. He could only abandon his tribe, hometown, family, friends, and transform all his anger and unwillingness into the motivation for cultivation. This was also intentional by Lin Yuan. The path of cultivation cannot always be smooth. It requires external pressure and challenges. Therefore, in the earliest reincarnations, Lin Yuan's lives were extremely tragic, often with parents killed by enemies in his early years, hometown resources plundered, and himself pursued and hunted. There were too many instances. It was under these pressures that Lin Yuan could walk a more perfect path. As for this reincarnation, with the foundation formed from the previous 33,332 reincarnations, even if Lin Yuan tried his best to weaken himself, it was difficult to achieve because his cultivation speed was too fast. Often before enemies could make a move, Lin Yuan had already far surpassed them. For example, in the original world where the 6 ancient countries reside, Lin Yuan was initially supposed to stand in opposition to the 6 ancestors and be hunted by these 6 perfect time beings. But Lin Yuan's rapid growth scared the ancestors with future timelines, prompting them to choose to befriend and strengthen connections regardless of anything. In the 33,333 reincarnations, the major events were roughly the same, but there were still slight differences in details. Just like the number of reincarnations, in the 33,333rd reincarnation, the essence of the endless dimensional realms was related to the number 33,333. Whereas in the 11,111th reincarnation, the essence of the endless dimensional realms was related to the number 11,111. The entire endless dimensional realm was personally created by Lin Yuan, and the will of the Supreme Rule Dao was also a piece of spirit casually refined by Lin Yuan to maintain the operation of the endless dimensional realm. As for the infinite tribulations path of transcendence, those legendary lords believed that overcoming all tribulations meant transcendence, but it wasn't true. Even if you really traverse the infinite tribulation path, all you would get is a promise from the will of the Supreme Rule Dao. It could allow the will of the Supreme Rule Dao to take action to help him do one thing. In past reincarnation eras, Lin Yuan's reincarnation body grew slowly, including enemies who had walked the infinite tribulation path and made demands to the will of the Supreme Rule Dao to erase Lin Yuan's existence. The will of the Supreme Rule Dao personally took action, which for Lin Yuan was an unprecedented desperate situation, ultimately exhausting all world-breaking origin force to barely survive. In the 33,333rd reincarnation, Lin Yuan's growth speed did not even give enemies this opportunity. And the infinite origin path to transcendence? Actually, it cannot transcend, because the so-called source of time is precisely where Lin Yuan's true body slumbers, and no being in the endless dimensional realm can possibly approach here. Even if they got close, they would be immediately erased. The final perfect time being, the leap from the 13th stage to transcendence, is indeed too great. Lin Yuan once went through countless tribulations to become a transcender, until now reaching the pinnacle of transcenders. With just one reincarnation era, trying to give birth to another transcender? It's not possible at all. In this reincarnation era, my growth was indeed too smooth. Lin Yuan reflected for a moment, shaking his head slightly. Compared to many previous reincarnation bodies, he almost encountered no significant hardships or challenges. Family and friends were intact. The reason lies in his growth being too fast. So fast that it didn't even allow the prearranged hardships and challenges the conditions to arise. The accumulation is perfect, ready to break through. Lin Yuan's gaze gradually became solemn. Before starting the 33,333rd reincarnation era, he was already at the pinnacle of transcenders. And after experiencing so many reincarnations, each reincarnation was a different path, accumulating the foundation to perfection, making the breakthrough a natural, logical progression. Beyond transcendence, none have reached it yet. Lin Yuan felt his own transformation. In fact, after awakening, with perfect accumulation, he was already naturally beginning to transform. Outside the endless dimensional realms is the vast world where Lin Yuan resides, where transcenders are also supreme beings, very few in number. Buzzing as the transformation constantly proceeds, Lin Yuan's spirit swiftly elevates, breaking free from all constraints, finally touching a brand new domain. Beyond transcendence is reality, absolute reality. After breaking free from all constraints and bonds, a true domain more incredible than the vast world he resides in appeared within Lin Yuan's perception. Reality, Lin Yuan was radiant. Then he flipped his right hand, tearing open the vast world and leapt into the realm of reality. The end of the book.